Good day, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday. DK Show broadcasting live from the TDS Sports Talk Studios on this. Thank gosh, it's a football Friday. Appreciate you tuning in if you're already making us part of your start. Whether it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Got your smart devices, Google Alexa home devices, the app, download that, take it on the go. Video streams also up and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter. So happy Friday, everybody. Made it through the week. What do we got on our good old game plan for us this morning? Well, it is a football Friday, so keys to victory, key matchups. Packers, Eagles, your predictions for this game. Hit me up. Start to hit me up right now on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line with some texts or comment on the video streams or hit me up on the socials, whatever's best for you over there. So, but hit me up with the predictions and your keys to victory, your key matchups, and the players who got to have a game. I'll let you pick one from the offense, one from the defense, okay? One player who's got to have a game for the Pack on Sunday on the offensive side, one player who's got to have a game on the defensive side for the Pack, okay? Hit me up. Let me know what your picks are. Plenty of Packers talk throughout this morning, and I want you to join in on the convo and give me your picks and your analysis on it. All right. So we'll talk NFL playoffs as well. We'll make our predictions with the games. It all starts tomorrow with the Chargers taking on Houston. And you got Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Denver, Buffalo, Green Bay, Philly, Washington, Tampa, Minnesota, and the Rams. That game, by the way, has officially been moved out of LA into Arizona because of the fires in Los Angeles. So, oh, man, what an awful scene out there, man, just awful, awful. So we'll talk some NFL playoffs and such throughout the morning. We had college football playoffs last night. Game one, Notre Dame taking down Penn State 27-24, thanks to a field goal with just a few seconds remaining from Notre Dame. So they advance to the national championship game where they will either play Ohio State or Texas. And that game will be tonight. So we'll make our pick and predict with that. What will the matchup be for the national championship in college football? So we got that. We are going to talk a little Brewers. We got Brandon, of course, joining us a little bit later on. So we'll throw a little Brewers chat here because yesterday was a big day in terms of it was the arbitration day. Okay, that's where you try to. It's the deadline to agree to some contracts and arbitration. Such the Brewers agreed with 5 of their 6 players. The lone player that they did not strike an agreement with was William Contreras. So that looks to be going possibly to an arbitration hearing. We know the Brewers' history with that, with the Corbin Burns one. Now, Brewers aren't the only team that does this, but of course, we pay a little bit more attention to that. But other ones, the Brewers were successful in avoiding a hearing with Aaron Savali, who's going to earn $8 million. Nestor Cortez, Joel Payamps, Trevor McGill, Nick Mears, all agreeing to deals before having to go to a hearing. So we'll talk a little bit about that with B. We've got some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center as well that we'll hit up with Mr. Berg. Lots to catch up on from this weekend. Looking ahead to the weekend, we got hoops tonight as well. I mean, tonight's a night too. If you got nothing going on, you're staying in. It might be a multimedia sort of thing because you got Bucks tonight taking on the Magic. You've got the Badger basketball taking on the Gophers over there too, and of course the college football playoff game as well. So we'll throw maybe a little hoops chat into this. Talk to Dr. Crow inside the trading room, Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. He's coming up just under an hour from now. We'll talk to him about Christian Watson's knee injury, Jordan Love and his elbow injury. Now, Jordan Love yesterday was a full participant. So that whole 1 day of gamesmanship or whatever it was, kind of out the window right now. So, but Jordan was a full participant in practice, along with Malik Willis too. We will might as well throw that one in there too. And TJ Slayton also practicing limited. He was a DNP the day before, but Quay Walker practiced again. Evan Williams practiced again in this one. So hopefully, and then of course on the other side of the ball, or on the other side of the field, I should say, Jalen Hurts was also a full participant in practice. So both quarterbacks looking to start on Sunday, which is no surprise whatsoever. So, yeah, we'll talk to Dr. Crow coming up just past 7 o'clock and get his thoughts on the Christian Watson injury and maybe some potential effects with Jordan Love's elbow that we possibly could see coming up on Sunday. So, got that. We'll do cream of the crop. Who's your cream of the crop? Play along. Let us know. Make your nominations for your cream of the crop. Send them on over. Brandon and I will make our picks coming up at a little after 8. We're also going to do some predictions coming up in the 8 o'clock hour for because Brandon and I like to do some predictions and such. So we're going to make our predictions on who's going to be the new head coaches for the teams that have openings right now. Bears, Patriots, Jets, Jaguars, Raiders, Saints. I think we may even throw in the Cowboys here since that deadline for I shouldn't say deadline, the exclusive negotiating window between the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy expires on Tuesday. So we'll see if either one of us pick a different coach besides McCarthy over there. So just have a little fun and mix it up here this morning. So, but that's your game plan for us this morning. So let's jump right into it, shall we? We've got the day is finally here. It's a football Friday, just a couple days away. The Packers kicking off hopefully a long playoff run. It'll be a tough test. No doubt about it, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. But what are your key matchups? What are your keys to victory in this game? Your predictions, and who's got to have a game? One player on the offensive side, one player on the defensive side for the Pack. The players that got to have a game, that have to help lead this team to victory. Coach is not eligible because I think a lot of us would pick the coaches. Got to keep it to players. Okay? Keep it to players here. So, who you got? Who you think? My defensive one's probably, you already probably know, I've been talking about them all week, but I'll tell you again coming up here in just a little bit. But offensively, who's it got to be? Is it Love? Is it Jacobs? Is it a pass catcher that's maybe got to step up? Who you got? Who do you think? Maybe it's not as hard as, maybe you don't have to think too hard about it. So let's jump right into it. We'll take our first break and then get the leadoff going here. Get right into some football talk. Football Friday, TGIFF. Start to hit me up on the video streams. We had some good chats going on there yesterday on YouTube. Hopefully we'll get that going a little bit later on today. for the best selection of firearms, ammunitions, and accessories? Well, hey, look no further than Tilden Gun. Whether you're a seasoned hunter, a competitive shooter, or just starting out, they've got everything you need. Tilden Gun carries top brands and a wide variety of firearms to fit every purpose, rifle, shotgun, handguns, you name it. And if you're not quite sure what you're looking for, their friendly, experienced staff is there to help you with any questions you may have. It's not just about the gear. At Tilden Gun, they offer the expert advice that you can trust. Their knowledgeable staff is there to help you make the right choice and ensure you're confident and prepared. Stop by their shop, 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. That's 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. Or check out their website at tildengun.com. You can check out all the different options you can choose from right off their website. TGIFF, thank gosh, it's Football Friday. We've got lots of football to catch up on here. We got college football playoffs continuing with Notre Dame last night picking up a win. They will face either Ohio State or Texas in the national championship. We'll find out the winner tonight. Tomorrow, the NFL playoffs kick off. But we begin things talking a little green and gold. Packers yesterday at practice. Jordan Love, full participant. Malik Willis, full participant. TJ Slayton, elevated from a DNP to a limited participant. Quay Walker, I should say Edrin Cooper was also practicing. Quay Walker and Evan Williams practiced for the second day in a row. One more day of practice before they head off to Philadelphia, and hopefully with a deep playoff run for the green and gold. Your keys to victory, your key matchups. I know we've been talking about this matchup and breaking down different aspects of this game throughout the whole week here. But with your final thoughts heading into this game, what are your final keys to victory, your final key matchups, the players, one on the offensive side, one on the defensive side, that has got to have a game, and your prediction? What do you got for me? Put your money where your mouth is. Where's your prediction for this game? So, we've talked about Packers run defense ranked 7th in the league. We've asked our various guests all week. We've asked you, the listeners, all week. Are you more concerned, even though they are ranked number 7, are you more concerned about going and slowing down Saquon Barkley, or is it the Packers passing offense going up against the number 1 passing defense in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles? And there was no clear majority. It was pretty darn even at this point. But it is no question those are 2 key matchups for this game. Packers, yes, 7th best. Numbers tell us this. I think we can all agree, whether you agree they're a top 10 unit or not, I think we can all agree for the most part, it seems like their run defense has gotten better this year than it has been in years past. We are scarred. There's no question about it. We are scarred when it comes to teams running the football on this Packers squad over the years. And a lot of times it's happened in the postseason too. 49ers, right? That's happened to us. So we are definitely scarred from that. And regardless if they're 7th, 5th, 4th, 25th ranked in the league when it comes to their run defense, they've got a challenge going up against Saquon Barkley heading into this game. Saquon having the week off, not breaking the rushing record. You would assume that maybe he's got some fresh legs heading into this game. So I don't think they're going to be able to stop Saquon Barkley. They may, he may get over 100 yards. In fact, I think he's going to get his own. He's going to get, a solid stat line in this game. But don't let him just completely dominate and take over the game. Can you, as DP would always say back in his ESPN days, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. Pittsburgh was the latest team to really have success going up against him. He carried the ball 19 times for 65 yards against the Steelers back on the 15th. Now, I don't know if Green Bay is going to be able to do that. But where Saquon, especially when they get, I think a big way to try to limit his ability to really affect this game and his ability to really, dominate this game, you got to try to keep Philadelphia out of the red zone because I feel like once you are in the red zone, once Philadelphia is in the red zone here, that's where Saquon Barkley is going to be a menace, and that's where he can really absolutely dominate in this game. So can Green Bay's defense try to keep Philadelphia out of the red zone and maybe force them to attempt some field goals if they get down into scoring position? But no question, a key matchup in this game is going to be this Packers run defense, and specifically Edgerrin Cooper. Defensive front, yes. Kenny Clark, if Slayton plays. I hope Slayton plays because he's probably their best run defender, interior run defender, the big man playing the nose tackle. Other guys up there, Wyatt, Gary, Nass. It starts up front at the line of scrimmage. The offensive line's pretty solid for Philadelphia, though, too. They've done a nice job replacing some greats like Jason Kelce and such. It starts up there, but Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a big factor in this and trying to slow down and trying to stop Saquon Barkley, trying to contain him. Can Edgerrin Cooper, the reigning NFC Defensive Rookie of the Month, is he up to this challenge? We are putting a lot on the shoulders of this rookie. And I know we are, but he is a huge, huge factor into the success of trying to slow down Saquon Barkley. There's no question about he is a huge factor into this. Can he step up? Can he rise to the challenge? Then on the flip side, it's that Packers passing offense, another key matchup going up against the passing defense of the Philadelphia Eagles. Can Green Bay move the ball through the air if they get in that position? They're going to have to throw it. Sure, in an ideal world, they're running the ball 80% of the time and having success. And in realistic world, in reality, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to throw the football. So can the Packers move the ball through the air against this pass defense from the Eagles? They're going to be challenged. I got to imagine Vic Fangio is going to challenge this group to say, try to beat us through the air. He's going to have confidence in his passing defense. He's going to have Vic Fangio loves his corners. He's going to have confidence in those guys. He's going to have confidence in his secondary, and he's going to say, we're going to challenge Jordan Love. We're going to challenge Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs. We're going to challenge them to beat us. Can the Packers passing offense rise to that challenge? And a key part of that is going to be Matt LaFleur's game plan and how he calls this game. How is he going to help out his passing attack? How is he going to help his offense move the ball? We can look at certain players in this thing and be like Tucker Kraft, Jayden Reed. You want to throw in Luke Musgrave, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton. Guys, all have to step up, rise. Even if Christian Watson was playing in this game. We heard from our good buddy Rob yesterday. As he noted, Philadelphia is tops in the league in terms of explosive plays. It surprised me. Green Bay is also, in stopping explosive plays. Green Bay is also up there, I believe, top in on the offensive side for explosive plays. So regardless, it was probably going to be tough to throw the ball deep against Philadelphia. But you lose Watson in this game, it at least takes away the threat of that. So it moves everything up a little bit closer in its advantage, Philadelphia in that department. But how can Green Bay, what's going to be the game plan? How are they going to be able to move that ball? I think you got to start off Jordan Love in a rhythm. You got to get him comfortable right away. Whether it's some quick passes, some short passes over the middle, get him in a rhythm right away. That to me is key. He can't start out slow. Passing game can't start out slow. I'm not saying if you get the ball first to all of a sudden just, 3 straight plays of passing it. But get into a rhythm, and you got to win on those early downs. You got to win on first and second. You cannot put yourself in a position to have 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and long situations. Win on the early downs. You do that, help Jordan Love get in the rhythm, then maybe you can get some confidence and throw that ball around. But can they? They got to get him in a rhythm, and he's got to step up. He's got to be better with his accuracy. He's got to be better with his fundamentals. He's got to be better hitting guys in stride. These receivers got to be better and holding the dang football. Hits you in your hands, it should be a catch. Hold on to the dang football and make a play. Make a play. I think both offensive lines, you look at, we mentioned a little bit with the Eagles going up against the Packers defensive front. Eagles, even with losing some guys like Kelsey, have done a fantastic job. But, for Green Bay's offensive line here too, this is going to be a test going up against this front seven. Jalen Carter's a dude. Okay, we know that. We know the last few years plus, the Eagles have done a fantastic job of just cycling in new guys on that defensive front. They've just continued to build and have depth on that defensive line and that defensive front. This Packers offensive line, I think, has been one of the nice surprises, pleasant surprises maybe for a lot of people this year. They have played very well outside of stupid penalties. Overall, they have done a nice job. Pro Football Focus just yesterday ranked them the 6th best offensive line in the league. And factoring in, we didn't know exactly what we're going to get from Rasheed Walker. Zach Tom, we knew was a great player, but where was he going to play? You had Myers, Sean Ryan with extended playing time, Jordan Morgan, the number 1 overall picks, not even playing practically. So I think the offensive line was a nice, pleasant surprise this year. But they're going to have their hands full in this one. We talk about not making stupid mistakes and not having false starts or penalties. You're going to Philly, okay? Going to Link, a hostile environment. It's going to be tough. Don't make any stupid mistakes. You get a false start or anything like that, that's just going to rile up that crowd even more and make it more difficult on your life. Be more physical than Philadelphia. Take the fight to them. Don't let them beat you up. Don't let them out-physical you. Take it to them. Set the tone early. Set the tone early with Josh Jacobs. You want to offensive linemen love run blocking. Set that tone early. And knock some, on the ground. Bring the fight to them. I think some more keys to victory, key matchups. This Packers secondary, Xavier McKinney, can they force some turnovers? Can they get some turnovers from Jalen Hurts? I think everybody's assuming he's going to be rusty in this game. He's missed quite a bit of time. And I think a lot of people are just going to operate under the assumption he might be a little rusty. And he may very well be. He's missed a few weeks. He very may well be rusty in this game. And if he is, take advantage of that. Absolutely take advantage of that. And with the Eagles kind of, starting games off slow in the first quarter, here you go. Offensively for the Packers, take advantage of that. Defensively for the Packers, take advantage of that. Try to force some turnovers. Jeff Hafley yesterday talked a little bit with the media, and he was asked, in that first game they kind of had the contained rush, right, against Jalen Hurts, and he acknowledged, got to find that happy medium of getting pressure on him, and yet, containing him. His quote was, there's got to be a little bit of both. And I think I've learned from that in terms of not pressuring him much in week 1. And I agree with that. You don't want Jalen Hurts to beat you with his legs. You don't want him to picking up, a 3rd and 8 using his legs. And that's where those guys up front, the Kennys, the Rashans, the Lucas Van Nesses, those guys got to have a game. There's a lot of players that got to have a game in this thing. And there's no question a guy like Rashawn Gary's got to have a game. Van Ness's got to have a game. Kenny Clark's got to have a game. I mean, if you could get pressure up the middle, that's huge. That's why I want Quay Walker back in this game so much. I know he's been inconsistent, but what he can bring as a blitzer too, what he can bring with his athleticism. We're going to need that athleticism on the field on Sunday. We're going to need that. And I'd rather have him on the field than not at this point. I want him paired up with Edgerrin Cooper. I want those guys flying around and showing their speed. I want Cooper to be in charge of Saquon, and I want Quay to maybe play a little spy on Hurts or maybe get after Hurts. I want Quay on that field. And I think Green Bay's got to control the clock. They have got to control time of possession in this thing. Get back to doing what they were having success doing, like against San Fran and Miami, and start the game off. If they could start the game off just like they did against Dallas last year in the wild card round of the playoffs, I'm feeling good. You go down, you're establishing the run with Aaron Jones, you're having success, and I know Aaron Jones loves playing in Texas and loves playing in Dallas. But if you can have success in running the football and taking all that time off the clock, playing defense with your offense, not allowing Jalen Hurts and Saquon and A.J. Brown on the field. But if you're going down there in 6, 7 minutes, but coming away with touchdowns instead of field goals, setting the tone early and putting Philadelphia in a hole early, that is, to me, is going to be key in this thing. And can this team take some blows themselves? Can they take some punches from Philadelphia and not succumb to that, not cower, not get knocked out early? Can they take some of those hits? Can they take some of those body blows or those jabs and still fight and not be deterred and not be rattled? Can they do that? Can this young team do that? Some of these guys got their first playoff experience last year, but we're counting on some young guys too coming in here to be big roles. Edgerrin Cooper, this is his first playoff experience. If Evan Williams plays, first playoff experience. Javon Bullard, first playoff experience. But can they stand up to some of those punches, take some of those punches? Because Green Bay's not going to shut out Philadelphia. They're not going to shut them out. They're going to be able to hit, and they're going to be able to land some jabs and some uppercuts. But can Green Bay stay in that fight and take those and counter it? Especially with some of the youngsters too. If this is their first playoff experience, you're going to Philly in a loud environment, in a hostile environment. Can't work. You're going to have butterflies. You're going to have butterflies. Everybody's going to have butterflies. I don't care if you're a rookie or a veteran in this thing, or were at the playoffs last year. You're going to have butterflies. But how do you manage that? And to kind of wrap up the keys to victory key matches, we could go all day on this thing because there's a ton of them. But I think it's going to be a battle between the play callers in this thing too. Who's going to have the advantage? When Matt LaFleur is on, and when we talk about him being one of the better play callers in this league, it's when he seems like he is one step ahead of the opposing defensive coordinator. He was in that stretch last year. We've seen moments of it this year. But if he can stay like one step ahead in his play calls from Vic Fangio, where like Vic Fangio like trying to counter, trying to adjust, but yet LaFleur's doing this and they're doing that, always kind of keeping them guessing. This has got to be a game where LaFleur comes in, not wound tight, got to come in loose, got to come in feeling confident, but he's got to come in with a great game plan and a great call sheet to help out his team, to help out this offense that is coming into this thing probably not, feeling great. I mean, LaFleur's acknowledged the passing offense. Meh. And that might be kind of given a little bit more praise. But then on the other side is Jeff Hafley versus Kellen Moore. A lot of eyes are going to be paid to the corners of Green Bay. Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, going up against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Are those two corners up to the challenge? How much confidence is Hafley going to have in his corners going up against those guys? Or is he going to continue to give them help? Help over the top, safety help. Or is he going to say, I got confidence in you guys. I need you guys to go out there and win your one-on-ones so we can do this and we can do that in other aspects. I'm curious to see if Kellen Moore looks at the success that Detroit and Minnesota's passing attacks have had against Green Bay this year and other teams, utilizing the middle of the field. Because Philly this year hasn't really utilized the middle of the field a ton. They're more of an outside, on the edges, on the sidelines type of team. But I got to imagine they saw it in the film work. Is there a weakness there? And if there is, how does Green Bay counter that? Can they counter that? But the matchups between LaFleur, Vic Fangio, Jeff Hafley, Kellen Moore, that to me is going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to be a chess match, intriguing there too. And then one final thing too, if we go back to week one, Green Bay, if you remember, started that game with a lead. However, this was when they were still I know it was week one, and I shouldn't say still, but just 6 points in the first quarter. Okay, they got an interception, they settled for a field goal. They got a fumble, they settled for a field goal. They were up 2 within the first few drives, up 2 in the turnover ratio in the first few drives, and they only had 6 points. 6 points off those turnovers. That can't happen in this game. That can't happen in this one. And I remember thinking in that first week matchup, like, you're only getting 6 points off 2 turnovers, and I'm like, gosh, is this going to come back and bite them in the butt? And after they hit that second field goal, what happened? Philadelphia comes back, goes down for an 11-play touchdown drive, takes the lead. Green Bay scores a touchdown after that, but then misses the extra point. And then Philly scores another touchdown. But if you get those turnovers, capitalize on them, especially if it's deep in Philadelphia territory, like it was in that first week. If you get a turnover against the Eagles, capitalize on it. Take that momentum. Reward your defense for a job well done. The players who have got to have a game. One on the offense, one on the defense. We could pick probably every starter, all these different players on each side of the ball, and everybody would be right. But if I had to narrow it down to just one on each side, defensively, the name I've been saying all week long, I'm going with Edgerrin Cooper. I'm going with Edgerrin Cooper in this thing. He has got to have a game. I thought about putting Quay Walker in there too if he plays, because I think he's also got to have a game if he's out there on the field. Carrington Valentine, if you want to go Xavier McKinney and trying to force some interceptions. You want to go Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary. Absolutely Rashawn Gary. Heck yeah, I would 100% agree with all of those guys. But I'll go with Edgerrin Cooper in this because is it fair to say Edgerrin Cooper is the best defensive player on this team right now? Is it fair to say Edgerrin Cooper is the best one? I think you can make an argument. Offensively, the guy that's got to have a game. Again, kind of like the defense, we could pick multiple players, and I would 100% agree with all of them. You want to pick Jordan Love? 100%. You want to pick Josh Jacobs? Absolutely. You want to pick Tucker Kraft? Heck yeah. Jane Reed? No doubt about it. But the player that I'm going to pick that I think has to absolutely have a game, I'm going to go Jordan Love. I'm gonna go Jordan Love. Jordan Love has got to have a game because I'll go back. I think Fangio is going to go in with the focus of stopping Josh Jacobs and challenging the passing attack and challenging Jordan Love to beat him. Can Jordan Love rise to that challenge? Can Jordan Love be accurate in this game? Can he hit his guys? Can he get the ball out? Can he not turn the ball over? Can they extend drives if they get into a 3rd and 5? Can they pick those situations up? Jordan Love has got to play like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he's got to have a game for Green Bay to win. Josh Jacobs running the ball? Yes, 100%. Those pass catchers, offensive line, yep, no argument for me. But Green Bay will not win this game if Jordan Love is struggling. And I think he's got to have a game. Your predictions, your keys to victory, your key matchups, hit us up. We got to take a quick break here, and we're already going to finish up the first hour. How about that? All right. We'll be back in just a few minutes. With temperatures a bit colder these days, your vehicle may be working a lot harder this winter season. Add in the potential for poor road conditions, and winter driving can be tough on your vehicle. That's where ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you out. Make sure your vehicle is prepared for this winter season with a new oil change to keep your engine running smooth, and that you have the proper tires for those snow covered roads. ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you with both. Just give them a call to set up your appointment, 715 514 4501. All right, let's catch up on some messages here. Jake says, Booyah. It is, can't say that word. Wild, let's just say flipping wild card weekend. Tell all the doubters to not even watch the game on Sunday afternoon because they already know what's going to happen. In fact, just tell them to tune into the purple and gold and go to the other side. Some more messages here. G Man says, Pack will win 27-23. Go, Pack, go. Evan says it's got to be Jordan offensively, needs to put the team on his back, got to win the trenches on both sides. Brandon's mom says, I think Love has to have a game, mix it up with targets, mac and cheese, baby, and Gary has to put pressure on Hurts. On Hurts, my two guys changed attitude. Pack pulls upset 27-24. Go, Pack, go. Jeremy says, keys to victory penalties, no pre-snap, and then red zone hold Philly to 3 and Packers get 7. Final score, Packers 27, Philly 21. Players that got to have a game. On defense, Kenny Clark, get pressure up the middle and help stuff the run. And on offense, the O-line help protect and open up the running lanes. Another texter says, Jeff says, quick question, why did Keyshawn Nixon get relieved of return duties on special teams? He was a threat and was something teams had to prepare for. With Reed as the returning specialist, we seem to have lost that threat. Well, Keyshawn's still the kick returner, but we know how the kick return game goes in these days. So he's still a kick returner. He's still listed as the top punt returner, but yes, Jane Reed has been getting all of those. I think it's probably the fact that Jair's out at corner, so they don't want Keyshawn getting hurt returning a kick, and they value him a little bit more, I guess on, I should say, I guess they value him a little bit more on the defensive side as a corner on the outside now. Like that plays into it a lot. So they're probably taking him out. We've seen teams do that with some of their players, right? They take them off the punt return because they don't want them getting hurt over there. And I know a lot of people saying, well, Jane Reed's very valuable too, and he absolutely is 100%. But I think you look at the depth of the corner position, and especially with Jair out, this is just my guess, but my guess is that they took him off the punt return one because of the corner depth issues over there, and they didn't want him getting hurt over there. He still returns kicks, but we know teams are a little bit can take that one out of the equation there too. So, all right, coming up, we'll continue some more playoff talk and Packers predictions and key matchups and keys to victory. Keep sending me your predictions for this as well. We're going to talk with Dr. Crow coming up just past 7 o'clock here this morning. We'll talk about Christian Watson's knee injury, Jordan Love's elbow, all that stuff. So we got him. We'll talk to Brandon coming up in the next hour. Do some local sports roundup with him, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center, and then get back to some more football talk, including college football, where last night we had Notre Dame picking up a win over Penn State, 27-24, thanks to a field goal with just a few seconds left. Tonight, we've got Texas taking on Ohio State. The winner of that will face Notre Dame for the national championship. So you can send us your picks for that game as well. So, reminder, playoff schedule for this weekend. You've got Chargers and the Texans, 3:30. Pittsburgh taking on Baltimore at 7 o'clock. That one's on Prime, so sorry to burst your bubble. That one's on Prime if you don't have it. Denver, Buffalo, noon. Green Bay, Philly, 3:30. Washington, Tampa, 7. And then Monday night, Minnesota versus the Rams. And in case you missed it, that game last night did officially get moved from LA to Arizona. I don't know if anybody was like following along online, but Rams were practicing. They were at practice. And some reporters were there, and all of a sudden, like, a fire just started. Like, they could see the smoke and that just outside the facility and such. And then when practice was over with, they didn't even hold pressers with the players. They told everybody to leave and get home right away. and just a fire had just kind of sparked up not too far from the facility and such. So, and then it was shortly after that, the NFL came out with a statement saying they had moved it to Arizona. So definitely a scary, scary situation over there. No question about it. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, Brandon and I will make some predictions. We're going to try to put our knowledge to the test and probably, or try to make some head coaching predictions for the teams that do have openings right now. That's the Bears, it's the Patriots, it's the Jets, that's the Jaguars, it's the Raiders, that's the Saints, and possibly the Cowboys at this point in time. So, I don't know if a lot of you are picking with your head or your hearts, but we got another Packers pick, 30-20. We've got a Packers pick here, 30-27, 33-27. Eagles pick here, 33-27, and another Eagles pick from Ben going 27-17 in favor of the Eagles. So keep those coming. We'll get to those throughout the rest of the morning here too. Plus, forgot the other ones. Got a couple Ohio State picks, one Texas pick, another Ohio State pick. Okay, so majority right now going towards Ohio State's. But as Eric says, I think Ohio State wins, but I'm rooting for Texas. I think I know who Dr. Crow's going to be rooting for. We'll get his pick coming up next hour as well, too. So, all right. Before we finish up with the first hour, good morning, Morgs.
Hey, in the green and gold. You're
Yep.
not picking with your head or your heart. I like these Packers picks coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see it happen. Percentage, what do you think?
I can't reveal it yet.
Oh, come on.
I can't reveal it yet. We got our picks and predicts segment in the 8 o'clock hour.
I know, but a little teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. You're not going to throw any hints. What about Hutsy? What does he think?
He picked the Eagles.
Did he?
Yeah.
So he's being pragmatic, objective, looking at the stats, looking at the likelihood instead of the green and gold passion.
He's picking the Eagles, but then he won't pick the Vikings because he can't stand the Vikings. So it's like, okay.
Well, with the stadium move and stuff, because obviously, the fires and everything that they're doing with this, it made me think, now, if you could say money was no object.
Yeah.
If you could choose to watch the game, and let's just go Packers only right now. Okay. Go Packers only, live at Lambeau every time, or on TV, what do you actually prefer? Because I miss the days of flipping on the TV on Sunday and there's football on, because now it's streaming this, and and you have to figure out where to go and you have to coordinate. Not everybody has it, and it's getting to be kind of a pain in the butt. So if you could pick between live or TV, where do you think you would plant yourself at the end of the day?
Money's no object.
Money's no object.
Is travel an object?
I mean, you'd have to get there. Well, you have to keep it somewhat, like, it's not like you would just instantly, you can't teleport. You have to put some level of real life into it. Yeah. But would you really put yourself at Lambeau for every Packers game if you could?
Probably not.
Yeah. Because you like the comfort of the man cave, that kind of thing?
That's why I bring up the travel thing. I'm getting old now, and it's like, do I want to drive 3 hours one way and then back?
Those
10 years ago, 15 years ago, it'd be like, every day.
The night games are rough. Yeah. The night games and getting out of there are rough. So that would be enough of a deterrent to say
and no. I'm on the season ticket waiting list. I think I still am. It's been a while. But it's like, and then I don't want to sell my tickets to some, because I'd feel bad.
Right. Yeah. So if you have season tickets, you feel like you should and have to be there. But then you're into obligation territory, and then you're like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be fun. It's the Packers, fashion ball.
Yeah, I would make sure I sell them to Packers fans, though.
Yeah. Well, you would have to. I mean, guaranteed.
Yep.
But so if you're watching live to TV, give me one benefit of both. Like, what do you, obviously Lambeau's Lambeau, that you're there in spirit, but what would make you choose the live option every time, even considering the inconvenience of having to get
you just get a little bit more pumped up being in the stadium. You feel like you're a part of the team almost.
Do you feel like you get that because it's easier to see what's happening on TV? Do you end up watching the Jumbotron or the field?
The field.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So do you feel like you get a better view that way then too?
Maybe. I feel like the biggest thing is like it may sound stupid. I just feel like I'm a part of the team.
The immersion.
Well, and the adrenaline gets going.
There's tens of thousands of people that feel the same way, and probably starting to tailgate already. If I know Wisconsin,
and I feel smarter and like more like a coach when I'm watching it on the field. Then I can go to the Jumbotron at the replay.
Yeah,
and dissect.
Kind of like LaFleur does with us up down on the heads on the sidelines.
Yep.
What about where do you like to watch him? I was like, if you could pick where we could broadcast, do you like the streaming thing, or do you want to go back to regular network TV games?
Probably regular network. Then I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about the delay.
Dang delays, rooted everything.
Thanks, Morgs.
Hey, anytime.
1st of this year. If you are a Wisconsin landowner, look for your survey and fill it out as soon as possible, or USDA interviewers may be knocking on your door to find out your information. And applications for the 78th Allison Dairyland are open through the end of the month. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection invite individuals with a passion for promoting agriculture to apply for this year of service. Visit dadcapalice@wisconsin.gov for more information. And that's some ag news on this finally Friday morning on Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Joe Welke.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning. A little TGIFF action broadcasting to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios. Big thanks for making us a part of your starts on this Friday morning. Got a couple of messages on the video stream. Let's get that thing popping like it was yesterday. Had some trash talking going back and forth between Packers and Lions fans over there. But Joe a little bit earlier said, good morning, it's Friday. Let's go Packers. The key to their win is show up for a whole game. Nothing to lose and everything to gain. Bloomer Tony says, hey, DK, good morning. For my offense pick, I'm going with Josh Myers. He's got to step up big against the Eagles' defensive line, especially with all the pressure they bring. Myers needs to be on point, making the calls and setting the tone for the rest of the front. On defense, I'm sticking with Carl Brooks. I expect Kenny Clark to show up, but honestly, he's not quite living up to that big contract just yet, so I'm rolling with Brooks. He's been getting more snaps and really making the most of his chances. Let's get that win. Go, Pack, go. Joe picking 24-17. We'll get back to some more of your texts and comments on the stream, but you know what time it is.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine this morning. Got to be feeling good, Doc. You got Texas tonight. You got your Vikings coming up in a couple days. Happy Football Friday, man.
It's a great day to be alive.
Yeah, we're gonna get your picks for your Longhorns and your Vikings coming up here in just a bit, man. But I want to start it off with Christian Watson. I know you and I were kind of texting a little bit about it, so when it happened and such, but it seemed like that typical ACL injury. He's running a route and all of a sudden just falls to the ground and in pain there. And the thing I wanted to ask you was, there was one report that, obviously he suffered an ACL, but one report said he also suffered some other damage, and they didn't quite say what that was. What would be some other possibilities that could be other damage to that knee outside the ACL?
Yeah, I mean, there's three that really come into play. One would be another ligament. And generally speaking, an isolated injury like this, you're not going to see an associated ligament injury with it. So it'll be an isolated ACL tear. But you could have like an MCL, LCL. But again, the mechanism for that just doesn't add up. Those are usually much more violent injuries. Or like someone jumps and lands and then he really buckles hard underneath them. So I'd say that one's pretty unlikely. The other two are much more prevalent. One would be meniscus injury. And so, when you see that injury happen, it looks innocent enough. I mean, we've all known to acknowledge when we see a non-contact injury in the field, it's significant, but still you look at it and you say, that's not that bad. But the thing to remember is when the ACL tears, the knee does a really violent shift, and it's you can't see it to the naked eye, but we can see it very clearly in the MRI. And I talk to this with every one of my patients that tears their ACL. There's a very classic bone bruise pattern where basically the tibia shifts forward, and you get this really big bone bruise. So the back of the tibia hits the front of the femur. So if you think about that for a second, there's a split second where your shin bone is sitting all the way in the front of the knee. So it goes quick, but most people who tear their ACL remember that feeling, and bam, there it goes. So point being, with that, there's often a significant impact to the meniscus in the back. So tears in the menisci are very common with ACL tears, probably about half the time or so. And then lastly, and this is the one you hope it's not, is there's cartilage injury.
Mm-hmm.
So with that same exact mechanism I described, in addition to kind of pinching the meniscus and tearing that, you can get really significant impaction or shearing injuries to the cartilage surface. So they can be small, they can be big. And so that's the one that really, when we look at MRI, that's one we're always kind of keeping our eyes peeled for, because that's a bigger problem, because it's often hard to address in the long term. So I did kind of a little bit of a deep dive. I didn't see any other reports indicating what it was. So who knows exactly what it could be. I mean, sometimes people even say, you know, the bone bruises are another injury. I mean, that's like every ACL tear ever. So who knows what it is, but there's been no other disclosure of what that would be. But if I'm betting ACL, maybe with a meniscus, maybe with a small cartilage injury, but I wouldn't guess much beyond that based on the mechanism.
So I want to go back, because I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I think for a lot of us, like for me and just the average Joe out there, we're watching it, it's like he was running and all of a sudden he just went down. How does he tear his ACL? So kind of what you were just mentioning, there is that violent shift that is not seen to the naked eye. So something, whether he was like stopping that route and going, that resulted in his knee making that violent shift to tear his ACL then?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So generally speaking, the mechanism is actually fairly universal. What happens is there's like a load and rotational force to the knee. The knee will buckle in slightly, so we call that valgus, and it creates what we call dynamic valgus force. So the knee drops in and rotates, and that rotational force goes into the ACL, and 99.9999% of the time your ACL is like, I got it. But then that one time it's not, the ACL tears. And so when there's all that force loaded and the ACL lets go, then the knee shifts really hard, and that's when the injury occurs. Well, I mean, obviously the tear is the beginning of the injury, but then there's the secondary injuries with that. So it's really quite impressive what we see on MRIs. I mean, it really shows you, and I think it really kind of puts a much clearer picture to the patient. Is like, look, this is a pretty violent injury, and often it seems benign enough. I mean, whether it's a basketball player jumping and kind of landing or a football player cutting on the field, it doesn't look that bad. But again, what happens to the knee, you know, his likely he was making a cut or at least a juke, and he was basically trying to turn his whole body weight in that knee, and then pop, there it goes, and then boom, in that split second, there's a lot of energy that goes right through that knee.
Mm-hmm. And you got to wonder too, with this late in the season, how much it's probably going to knock him out a big chunk of next season, I would imagine too.
You would be correct. Yeah, it'll be, and it does depend on the other injuries along with it, but I can tell you it's very unlikely he'll start the season.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, you know, at some point he will be able to rejoin, but you know, it's really, the pendulum has kind of swung back and forth on that. I mean, there was a decade or two ago, there was a push to try to get people back quickly after ACLs. And there's always a desire for that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, patients are always like, when can I come back? And that's the first question, understandably. But we learned that going back early has some serious drawbacks. So the pendulum has kind of swung a little bit the other way, where now people are waiting a little bit longer. I think you really need to treat it individually, and that's how I approach it with my patients. And it's a discussion, and there's a lot of variables that go into it. But I mean, we do know that going back earlier than 6 months is a very, very high instance of re-tearing. But still, some people at that 6 month mark, their leg still has significant weakness. And you're looking at more like 9 months, and then a year is not uncommon either. So, I mean, between 6 months and a year is average. And that's obviously it's a huge window, but you need to take it on a case by case basis. But I mean, nothing I can tell you is more devastating than someone doing all that rehab and then re-tearing their ACL. It's a tough thing. So you want to make sure they're ready to go.
And I know we've mentioned this one before too, but like Adrian Peterson's not the norm. You know, his recovery time when he tore that ACL. I mean, is that,
oh my God,
is that genetics? Do you know if he did anything to do it, or was that, you know, everybody heals differently, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in that. I mean, I think, yes, I mean, he's built different, right? I mean, Adrian Peterson was, a freak among freaks, right? I mean, what he did, you know, you go back and watch clips of him, and I kind of forget how good he was. In his heyday, he was an absolute beast. But mean, he came back just to let everyone recall. I mean, he came back from ACL and won an MVP that next year. I mean, which is just.
And he tore it like the last week or last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah,
So
it was. Yeah, against the Redskins. Yeah, I remember it very, very well, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, to do that, unreal. So one of my friends was actually in on his surgery. He was in the James Andrews Fellowship. And so I know during rehab, I mean, he was going beyond what he was supposed to do for a lot of it, which I do not recommend people do that. I mean, there are people out there that want to like push it beyond, but the recovery that we have for these athletes is there for a reason. So guys who go above and beyond, it's a risky game to play, but he did that and it paid off for him. But I mean, again, if you'd have retore it, that could have been the end of his career right then and there. So it's certainly not worth it, in my opinion. But he went, and pushed his body to the limit. And again, he's certainly built different than the average Joe. There's no question about that one.
Yeah. Elbow gate going on in Green Bay right now. I know you and I were talking a little bit about it the other day. Well, that gamesmanship maybe has kind of been put to rest after Jordan Love was listed as a full participant yesterday. But his presser on Wednesday, or his media availability is probably the best way to say it, on Wednesday, I mean, he was very short with his answers. And when he was asked, does it hurt when you throw? He says it hurts in the elbow, but he can grip the football there. So I guess my question is, like, we've all hit our funny bone. I've never hit it so hard to where I can't grip something, though. So I can't imagine what that feeling's like. But is that just, when he says it hurts in his elbow, is that bruising that's going on in there? Could it be something else that's going on in there? And how much of an effect do you think that could be coming up this weekend?
Yeah, so to answer a couple of those things. So it's, your funny bone is your ulnar nerve, right? So, kind of the joke, it's not so funny when you hit it, but I mean, it's right there. It is protected by two bones. It sits, the olecranon is kind of the tip of your elbow, and then what's called the medial epicondyle. It sits right in that groove behind there called the cubital tunnel. So it's protected, but it's not perfect, right? We've all hit the funny bone. And, I saw the clip of him hitting it. I can promise you it's nothing other than that. Now, that being said, if you hit a nerve hard enough, you can develop something called a neuropraxia. So neuropraxia, think of it like a concussion for your nerve. So you can hit a nerve and that's really what a mild neuropraxia is. When you hit your funny bone, then like it tingles into your pinky and ring finger, and it's like a mild version of it. It stings for a second, goes away, you're good. If you hit it hard enough, it can go where the nerve stops working for a little bit. Now, you can have really extreme versions of that where the nerve is like shut off. So let's say we do surgery on an elbow and we have to dissect the full nerve out. That irritation of the nerve, people can wake up from surgery and the nerve does not work. Now, we didn't cut the nerve will fully wake up, but that trauma to it caused it to shut off for a little bit, again, a temporary neuropraxia. So that those nerve palsies, so it could be the point where it doesn't work. Now, he clearly was able to, move his hand and do things, so we know it wasn't a complete nerve. So the ulnar nerve goes down and it does sensation to the pinky ring. That doesn't matter so much. It also goes to all the intrinsic muscles of the hand. And so that will have a big role in your grip. So if he wasn't able to grip a ball, that would certainly play a role. So if he had enough of a nerve injury, it could theoretically do that. Do I think that's likely? No. Do I think that that's something that's going to irritate him? Perhaps. But I think the function's probably there. So now to take it a step backwards, the impact can cause irritation there, which we call a neuritis, so inflammation of the nerve. So that can ache. So you can get that aching in the elbow after you hit it. So my guess is this will bother him a little bit. It shouldn't affect his performance or function. So I don't think it'll be a huge deal, but you hit it hard enough to irritate the nerve to that point. It could be a factor, but I think it's unlikely.
Would that be something similar a couple years ago when Brock Purdy had that elbow issue and like he couldn't throw, in that NFC Championship game? He had to go out there and pretty much just like hand the ball off every time to Christian McCaffrey against the Eagles.
That was his UCL.
Okay.
So if you remember, he ended up going on to Tommy John. So he ended up going on to a UCL repair procedure. Although that being said, it's not uncommon for UCLs to have some ulnar nerve issues with them, because when you injure the UCL, it opens up and creates a valgus on the elbow, so it stretches that nerve. So that can happen. So it could have been in conjunction with, but his injury ended up being UCL because he ended up that offseason went on to have surgery on it.
Interesting. I want to move over to hoops here quick before we let you go here in a couple minutes. So Bucks player Chris Middleton, obviously he's been going through some health and some injuries and, coming back a couple months ago from 2 ankle surgeries in the offseason on both ankles there. They moved him back to the bench, and what Doc Rivers said is that the ankles aren't quite to where we want them. The recovery's not quite where we want them to go, so they're cutting back on his minutes, and he's been dealing with some tendonitis in those ankles. My question, I guess, is the fact that he's had surgery on both of these ankles, is this tendonitis going to be something that you think, given his age and such, that he might have to work through or deal with for the rest of his career?
The answer is potentially. Without knowing exactly, because they never really disclosed what he had done. Generally when athletes have ankle surgeries, there's gonna be one of two things: a scope to kind of clean up some debris that's in there, or maybe a loose piece, a bone chip, that type of thing, or it's to stabilize the ankle. So it's called a Brostrom procedure. So people have recurrent ankle sprains. Sometimes we have to tighten those up. Additionally, with recurrent ankle sprains or instability, you can develop issues with the outer tendons called the perineal tendon. So perineal tendonitis is very common when people have ankle issues. So the question is did he just have a cleanup scope even though he has instability and they were just hoping to do a smaller surgery and he just still has some instability that's causing perineal tendon problems? Maybe. Did they do a procedure? No. Sometimes they'll actually even have surgery on the tendons themselves. That could be part of the surgery, is they'll do a debridement or repair those tendons. So it's obviously, without knowing, there's a lot of variables at play, but I can tell you people with these ankle issues, it can be recurrent. And I mean, he's been out a while, right? I mean, it has been a run. I mean, and the funny part is it's kind of been really cards tight to the chest. They really haven't disclosed what's going on. It's kind of just been like, wait and see, and everyone's been in the dark. So it is going to be a big question mark as to where it goes. But certainly with this and the timeline and the recurrence, I would absolutely be concerned that this could be a problem that could continue to rear its ugly head. But is it also possible that this is still just recovery from a surgery that included tendon work and it's part of the recovery process? That's also possible as well. So it could go either way, but I at least have some concern for sure.
Interesting. All right. Your Longhorns are in action tonight going up against Ohio State. How do you see Tech? Can they pull it off tonight? Is that what you're going to pick?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a homer, so I got to go with my guys. I mean, Ohio State, the first half they played against Oregon, it's like no one can beat these guys. I mean, it was unreal. And that's kind of the Ohio State people are expecting all season long, and they finally showed up. So, I mean, if they come out, that being said, I believe Texas has the best defense in college football. So, they're best against our best. So, I think it will be a reasonably high-scoring game. I think it'll be probably, somewhere in the upper 20s, 30s as a winning score. So I think Texas can pull it out. I mean, Ewers is certainly had some clutch plays against Arizona State. That fourth down play was just phenomenal to put him here. So I think it'll be a close game. I wouldn't bet all my money on it, but I think Texas can pull it out. But Ohio State certainly is playing at a high level. So, maybe 35-31, something like that. Win for Texas. We'll throw that out there.
All right. And then your Vikings Monday night. It's going to be in Arizona after the NFL moved it because of the fires in Los Angeles. We had before that game, I know our good buddy Brandon, who we'll talk to here in a minute, the one game one team he didn't maybe want to go up against was the Rams. Now you guys got the Rams. Are you a little bit nervous with this matchup? Or are you confident?
For sure nervous. I mean, it's a road game, I guess, in name only right now. Although LA's never been a great home field advantage for the Rams. That's just teams travel well against them just because it's not their real home base, if you will. So that being said, I mean, Stafford is a veteran who's seen it all, done it all. Puka and Cooper, elite receivers. Our defense, our secondary is not our strong suit. Our pass rush has been a little bit lackluster the last couple of weeks. So yes, I think there's some matchup issues. I do believe if Darnold has a good game, our offense can keep pace with anyone with the weapons we have. We just didn't execute. I mean, I don't want to play that game, but I mean, if you look at the Detroit game, we have a couple things different in the first half, and we could have been up by 2 touchdowns and easily. It didn't happen, and that's the way it played out. But I mean, I think we can hang with anybody. So I think if we come out and have a good offensive showing, our defense will keep us in it. I do believe it'll be a close game, though. I mean, like most playoff games are. So, I mean, I think the Vikings win, by maybe 3 or 4 points. So I think it'll be a close game, but I think we can pull it out.
All right. So, he's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine inside the training room. Have a happy football weekend starting tonight there, big guy. We appreciate you taking some time this morning, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Sounds good. You guys have a good weekend, too.
You got it. There you go. Dr. Crowe, good stuff as always inside the training room. Really quick break, and then We got our other doctor, Dr. Brandon, coming up here. We'll do some local sports roundup. Lots more in terms of NFL playoff talk, college football playoffs. We'll be back here in just a couple minutes. At Hy-Vee, they're more than just a grocery store. They are your one-stop shop for everything you need, all in one place. From fresh produce and top-quality meats to your favorite snacks and household essentials, they've got you covered. Need a quick dinner solution? Check out their delicious ready-to-eat meals or swing by their in-store bakery and deli for made fresh daily options. And don't forget to fill up your tank and take advantage of Hy-Vee's Fuel Savers. With friendly service, great prices, and convenience you can count on, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire is there to make your day easier. Looking maybe for some snacks, for some football for this weekend, some meals. Hy-Vee is your tailgate headquarters. What up, B? How you doing, man? Well, that was not the way I started off there. How you doing?
Yeah, there you go.
So we're going to talk lots of football here this morning, of course. But and then I'm looking forward to next hour. We're going to make our coaching predictions.
That's right.
You got your list?
I do.
So I'll talk to you about this off the air a little bit. The Cowboys one I threw at you last
You
night.
did.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you later or talk to you about it later. So that's coming up. How do you view your matchup with because you said last week you didn't want to play the Rams. Well, you're playing the Rams.
Yeah.
So how do you view this one? And do you think it changes that it's being in Arizona and not Los Angeles or not much?
I guess first things first. Yeah. I mean, I was leery of facing the Rams. I still am. I mean, but at the same time, once you get to the playoffs, you're going to face a good team. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's every team just kind of does different things well. So, you know, I think for Minnesota, a lot of it just comes down to you can't lay another egg offensively like you did last week. I mean, if you do that, then it really doesn't matter because you're not going to win. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of the chess match, not just after because these teams play in the regular season, but also kind of coming off last week. What does Minnesota try to do different? Because obviously Detroit put some things out there that opposing teams are probably looking at and saying, hey, this is something maybe we could utilize. I mean, they can't utilize, Jahmyr Gibbs, but they can utilize some of the things they did defensively with the stunts they ran up front, which teams have had some success against Minnesota with this year, as well as being really physical with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Right. Do you think so? I mean, Minnesota got kind of dominated, right? On 31-9. Just score, you know what I mean?
I mean, I would say especially as the game went on. I mean,
Gibbs went off with 4 touchdowns.
He did. The issues in the red zone, I think, loom large for them offensively. They kind of snowballed from there.
Do you think if the game was closer, how do I want to phrase this? I almost feel. Do you feel better about Minnesota's chances because of how that game went, maybe compared to if it was a closer loss? Do you know what I'm trying to get?
I think I know what you're saying.
Because sometimes after a bad loss, okay, they're gonna come in pissed off now, or refocused, or that was a good loss, to right the ship.
I will say this: I would be surprised if, especially offensively, they had that much of a stinker 2 games in a row. And it's an environment that not a lot of players on this team maybe have played in. Because, I mean, some of the veterans, sure, but, Sam Darnold certainly I don't think has ever been in a game that's, been that hyped up. A lot of the younger players that maybe were on that 2022 playoff team, I mean, they played one home game, and obviously they lost to the Giants that year. So maybe I don't know if they have a lot of.
Aaron Jones might be your guy.
It might be Aaron. I mean, it's going to be your veterans. It's going to be Aaron Jones. It's going to be Harrison Smith. It's going to be Stephon Gilmore. Those are the ones that really have done that. But, that. I don't know if there's really a lot that have.
Right.
So, as a Viking fan, I think you just kind of hope that maybe it's a bit of an eye opener, kind of introduce them to, hey, this was, that it was a really tough environment, a really tough foe in Detroit. But, now you kind of understand what it's like. You kind of understand what you need to, how you need to address it. And I mean, going into the game with the Rams, I mean, it's unfortunate that the game had to be moved, but obviously there's bigger things in play in in the Los Angeles area right now in the football. But I'm, I mean, just kind of looking at it from the game perspective there, you would think that it would be a little bit more of maybe a neutral crowd. I don't know how many, Minnesota Snowbirds spend their winters down in Arizona, but, I would think it would be a little bit better of an environment for Minnesota. And I don't think, SoFi is going to be, it's not going to be Detroit. It's not going to be Philadelphia in the postseason as far as just rabid fans, but, those fans I'm sure those Rams fans would have turned out for the postseason. So, but at the end of the day, you still got to go out there and beat the team in front of you, no matter where the game's played.
Right. College football, Notre Dame, your Notre Dame pick, as much I tip my cap to you, sir, because I gave you crap when you picked Notre Dame to go to the championship, and here you are. At least you got one thing right.
I didn't get much else right in there, but
it's impressive. I mean, it was a good game last night. It's going down to last few seconds and the field goal there. So now you got Texas and Ohio State's at it tonight. So, but how do you see tonight's game go? Without giving away your pick? Do you think Ohio State is, the way they're playing right now, everybody's jumping on board with them? And we saw how Texas kind of escaped Arizona State the previous week. I'm intrigued with this matchup because of kind of that, like Ohio State's just kind of used maybe that Michigan loss as like, okay, now we're pissed off. We're going to go show the world. Texas, meanwhile, coming off of that Arizona, do they use that as motivation? I'm intrigued with this matchup.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really fun one for a lot of reasons. Yeah, Ohio State has been very explosive. I mean, you look at what they did to Tennessee and what they did to Oregon. 2 good teams. Obviously, Oregon was the number 1 team. That was this was a year where it kind of seemed like there was a lot of parity, but Oregon was, they were unbeaten through the regular season. They were kind of that one team everyone kind of thought, hey, I picked them to win the national title. So
yeah, so did I.
But they ran them out of the Rose Bowl. So yeah, this is, I'm curious. I think a lot of times, matchups like this, it comes down to the quarterbacks. You got Will Howard for Ohio State. You got
Quinn
Ewers over for Texas, and I think the one that probably makes fewer mistakes or maybe just makes more plays in a game that I think could have a bunch of points, even though both these defenses are pretty potent. I could see this being a bit of a higher scoring game.
We haven't heard yet is if Quinn's going to the draft for either, right?
I don't think that's officially been announced.
Okay. I haven't. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I'm like, I don't think we've heard because he's not in the mocks yet. So.
No.
And I'm curious, like, if he did declare, let's say Texas wins the national championship and he declares.
Yeah, where would he go?
I
think I might have him third. I'd certainly have him above Jalen Milroe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
behind
know.
Ward and Sanders.
Yeah.
See, to me now, not to get into draft talk because
Yeah, because we could, but
Yeah.
both of us have a lot of stuff we still got to talk about with our teams yet.
I just don't know if I would draft Sanders. I'm worried about
There's drama.
yeah,
There's other stuff that comes with it. So
exact. That's where I'd be a little bit worried,
and,
especially if I'm a team that's already in the hot seat like the Giants.
well, it's gonna be interesting too with like the Titans. Well, you do number one because you need a quarterback.
Are you think the Will Levis era is over with?
Yeah.
Mel Kiper ain't gonna like that.
Well,
remember he was like, didn't he have him like top quarterback in that draft or
I think
two?
so.
So
because he fell a long ways in that draft, but it's going to be interesting, and obviously a lot will change between now and then. But that's going to be interesting because as of right now, anyway, there isn't that. I mean, I know who if I had the number one pick, who I would take, but
who would you pick?
I would take Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked you that is because Abdul Carter just declared for the draft.
And he'll be up there too.
Yeah, and Matt Miller, who's also he said best player in the class, which that's high praise when you got Travis Hunter sitting there too.
Right,
so.
But yeah, we'll have plenty of time to get to that in the coming months.
Oh, you're just like a dad or a parent saying, "You got time, kid.
You got time.
You got time, son."
We're gonna be over there for crying out loud.
Well, you looked annoyed when you said that too, like a dad. So there you go. Oh man. But
who touched the thermostat?
By the way, where do you have your thermostat at? That's a big question.
It's not a digital one, so it's not like I can't give a specific.
So it's kind of like that. It's not digital.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact temperature.
Would you say between 65 and 70?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Like, what's that perfect one? We got it at 67.
Okay.
Ours is digital. What about the rest of you, nation out there? What's the perfect thermostat temp, especially when it's colder?
Right.
Yeah. Put a hoodie on, man.
Yeah.
Put a hoodie on for crying out loud.
I mean, my thermostat in my room would be a little warmer.
Oh gosh, mine would be 50 if I could in my
Yeah.
room. I gotta sleep when it's cold. I can't stand it if I'm a little hot. I've got 2 fans on me and everything too. I gotta be cold.
Go sleep in a snowbank.
I probably should be like a husky or something like that.
You should go and put a deer stand out in your
There is one in the backyard already.
Just go sleep in that.
There's a ladder stand, a little one out there for Hudson to get used to.
There we go. So you should go
fit up there though. So I got a tent.
At least you'd be wedged in there, nice and cozy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Should we do some local sports roundup?
Let's do it.
All right. Local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center here this morning. So this week, looking back at this week before we kind of take a look ahead to what's coming up. Well, you checked out some hockey, didn't you, the other nights?
Yes. Well, Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, it was a bit of a hocky week for me this week. So.
Yeah. And did Memorial beat North last night too?
Yes, in boys hockey. Yep. A bit around the Big Rivers boys hockey last night. I think it was 6-3. Memorial picking up the big win over North in the intra-city showdown. I was at Triple Ice Arena where Chippewa Falls beat Menominee 5-0. So, I mean, currently looking at the Big Rivers right now, you get Hudson up top. They're unbeaten in conference play. You got New Richmond a game back. You got a Memorial a game and a half back because remember they've got that tie in there with Chippewa from the start of Big Rivers play. So that's gonna throw a bit of a monkey wrench in the proceedings here. But those teams we're getting pretty close here to we're pretty quick. We're gonna be starting that second run through for conference play. But I mean, as always, the Big River, especially that upper half is pretty challenging, and there's some big matchups on the horizon. I know Chippewa Falls hosts New Richmond next Tuesday. That'll be obviously a battle of 2 teams at the top half there, but we're starting to see who's who in the Big Rivers, and it's a lot of the teams that are usually who's who in the Big River. So, but boys basketball, I kind of mentioned it last Friday, but going back there. The big Eau Claire Memorial Hudson matchup, and that was a matchup that the Old Abes picked up the win in. So they're still, and it's funny because that was a big matchup last week. They beat Hudson 63-53, and then tonight it's another matchup of the top teams in the Big Rivers for boys basketball. You got Memorial taking on Rice Lake. Rice Lake's unbeaten. They broke into the rankings this week. That game is over at Eau Claire Memorial. So
that should be a really good game.
Should be if you're looking for a game to go tonight. That's a good one. There's kind of a bunch of games going on, but obviously you got North too. They're going over to Chippewa. So I'll be spending a little bit of time there tonight as well. That's what the Huskies, and no matter the sport, when the Huskies and the Cardinals get together, it's always a good one in the big, or going in the Western Clover Belt. There's another couple of big matchups there too. Fall Creek hosting Bloomer. Bloomer and Stanley Boyd are still unbeaten early in the Western Clover Belt schedule. Fall Creek has one loss, but picked up a big win Tuesday night over Regis. So, Fall Creek is 2-1 in conference play. They're right on the heels of both of those teams. Another game I'm going to be spending a little time at is going to be at McDonald, which Stanley Boyd and McDonald. Stanley Boyd, 2 conference wins this week, a makeup game with Cadott, and then Tuesday beating Thorpe. So they're 3-0 in conference play. An explosive Orioles team that's 7-3 right now, and they got McDonald, a team that's 7-4. Last night they picked up a non-conference win over Arcadia, so they get a quick turnaround. But that should be an interesting matchup. Both those teams are pretty deep, so that's going to be after tonight. I mean, obviously we're going to have some more lessons learned as far as the Western Clover. It's still a long way to go. I mean, but that's anytime you can get a win over one of those teams, and even in the Dunn St. Croix, you've got a matchup of top teams with Spring Valley hosting Elk Mound. Both those teams unbeaten early on the conference schedule. Both those teams only with one loss. So that's a monster game here early in the Dunn St. Croix on the boys' end of things.
I know you were at wrestling the other day, and the reason I bring that up too is because Chippewa Falls is unbeaten in Big Rivers, right? For wrestling, and you mentioned Chi-Hi and North. That's always interesting when they get together. Could that be the same for wrestling?
It could. I mean, the way it kind of works out right now with the scheduling is Chippewa Falls still has to wrestle in conference duels against Menominee, North, and Hudson, who are 3 of the other really good teams in the conference. And those will be coming up here in the next few weeks. So. We're going to get a lot of that kind of crossover, so to speak, with those, those teams all matching up with each other. So, we're starting to, once you get past January, you really start to get into it. Like tomorrow for wrestling, you got Cadott hosting their big annual invite, boys and girls. There's a lot of teams there. That's a pretty good. I was going to look at that as a bit of kind of a line of demarcation. Like, okay, now we're really we're getting into it. Then next weekend, Chi-Hi hosts their annual invite as well, and there's a lot of teams from the area around here too. So. Once you get into January, you kind of start to see not just some of the teams, but really some of the individual wrestlers emerging. Who's who, and who might be those contenders for conference championships, regionals, sectionals. Making a push to state.
Would you say, you could correct me but for wrestling, because basketball, it's like conference play right now, and hockey and that too. Wrestling, it's a little bit of a mixture. They got the invitational still,
right? Yeah. Because you've got the duels. And I know last night the Clover Belt got underway with their, triangulars that they'll do. So they'll, you'll start to see them kind of, obviously some teams winning and losing there as well in conference matchups, but they didn't have any before the break. But yeah, it's always such a mix because obviously you want to win your conference championship and stuff, but at the same time you also have these big on weekend tournaments where. To me, it's like the duels are for the teams, and the tourneys are almost for the individuals. Even though you can win a team championship at a tournament, that's more of your individual wrestlers kind of showing their stuff. Like, okay, what's going on? How do I stack up against some of these other teams? Because that's where you're seeing some of the teams you're not seeing a lot.
Okay,
if you're a Big Rivers team and you're going to. Say Merrill. I think Chippewa Falls goes to Merrill tomorrow. You're probably not going to see a ton of Big Rivers teams there, but you're going to see teams probably from the Wisconsin Valley. I know Stanley Boyd goes there, and they've got some good wrestlers. So
does it kind of help prepare for state and regionals?
And wrestling is. I was having this conversation with somebody last night. Is one of the things I really like about wrestling is one of those sports where really the size of the enrollment, the division of your team doesn't really matter that much. If you're a really good Division III team. You can go and wrestle a D1 team. I think of some of the really good teams like Cadott's had over the years. Or even like last night, Chippewa Falls wrestled Ellsworth, and it was a close duel. It was like 37-33. Ellsworth's got to always have a really good wrestling team.
Yeah.
So, you can, and you go earlier on, you go back last month, there's the big dual tournament that was held in Wisconsin Dells.
Oh, yeah.
You had Cadott wrestling, Division I size teams and other small teams wrestling big teams. That's not really that that doesn't really matter that much, because if you're just a good small school team and you fill out a full lineup, it doesn't matter. You can go and wrestle some of those big schools. And obviously there's many sports where you can't really do that just because of the different. Just kind of you're not going to see Division IV schools a lot of times playing Division I in basketball or in football or something like that.
Right.
For obvious reasons, but in wrestling you can do that, and that's the cool thing about wrestling. That's why if you go to any of these tournaments, you'll see such a variety of teams
Mm-hmm.
where you can see for many years, Chippewa Falls went to Cadott. And, that might be about the only sport where Chippewa Falls and Cadott ever competed against each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those sports you can do that.
Right.
And that's why I think one of the things that makes wrestling so cool is you can see such a big variety of competition. And now ultimately that's what you want when you get to the postseason, especially if you're a smaller school. If you can be exposed to tournaments where you're wrestling, kids from the big rivers or, wherever, that's just going to help.
Would you say it's kind of similar in a way of like the golf teams because it's
Sure.
like it's an individual but team sport
Yeah.
almost?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And sometimes you'll see some smaller teams. I know in the last few years when like McNally Regis boys golf was right at its peak and went to state a couple years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like they would go down south and they were playing big time Division I programs because they wanted to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
And you can.
Right. Because it's like golf, you're just kind of playing the course.
Right. It's not there's nothing physical about going up against somebody else.
Mhm.
We're like football, obviously, it's a little bit different. And,
Right, yeah.
And you would think, well, wrestling's a physical sport. Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's not the same. In wrestling, you're always wrestling somebody your own size.
Exactly.
You know, it's not like,
It's not like the left tackle that's 300 pounds at that school, but a smaller school might be 220.
correct.
You know,
Correct.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. So good point. Yeah. All right. Quickly before we take a quick break, we got Blue Gold stuff coming up here. A busy weekend for some Blue Gold and Stout athletics. Speaking of wrestling, the Blue Gold wrestling team, they're at the Bud Whitehall duels, going up against some good competition, traveling all across the country here. Women's hockey for the Blue Golds taking on Concordia. Men's going to be taking on the Milwaukee School of Engineering. Basketball, the women's team is going to be on the road taking on River Falls. Men will be home tomorrow taking on River Falls. And then for Stout this weekend, both the men's and women's teams will be taking on Whitewater. Women's going to be visiting Whitewater. Men will be home against Whitewater. Men's hockey taking on Concordia College as well. All right, that's your local sports roundup. Again, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We'll take a quick break and finish up the second hour. More football talk. And we're going to throw a little Brewers talk in here too. Arbitration deadline yesterday. We'll keep you updated on that coming up after these quick words. Looking for great food and a welcoming atmosphere? Stop by VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue in Eau Claire, serving up delicious meals from their amazing breakfast menu to many delicious options on their lunch and dinner menu that will keep you coming back for more. Whether you're dining with friends, family, or fellow veterans, they're open to everyone. And if you're looking for a place to hold your event, they're your go-to place as well. So the next time you're trying to figure out your next stop for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, make a stop at VFW Post 305, located 1300 Star Avenue in Eau Claire. And I'll have to go try they got soup flights now. So you got beer flights, they got soup flights.
That's
now.
awesome.
I know, right? I have to try that out. Saw that on Facebook.
Especially right now, the weather, it's good soup weather.
Yep. Plain T is checking us out on the video stream. Good morning, fellas. First time watching the show on the live feed. Good to see those knowledgeable faces this morning. So Plain T, missed you on the YouTube channel yesterday. We had some
I heard you had some fun.
Yeah, we had some Michigan people.
Michiganders, I believe is the word.
Is it Michiganders?
What's good for the goose is good for the Michigander.
Some Lions fans trash talking. So we had our listeners going back on there and going back and forth. So it's like, all right. So if we can keep that going, if we can get our own chat room going here, we're gonna have some fun.
See, all the Packers have to do is win on Sunday, and then you'll have that matchup again.
That's true.
Then you can trash talk all week.
Yep. I'm curious. I'm really excited getting into the next hour with our coaching hires, our predictions here. Because I did go back and forth on a couple of them, and I had to adjust some of them. So
yeah,
I thought it was gonna be kind of easy for me. I'm like,
some are easy, and some I had.
So before we get back to some more football talk, though, it was kind of a big day yesterday in Brewers and baseball, right? Arbitration deadline.
Yes.
And the Brewers avoided arbitration with 5 of the 6 players. The one loan that they did not was Contreras. So potentially going to a hearing unless they come.
Yeah, you can still come to an agreement anytime before the hearing.
Yeah. So Contreras had filed for $6.5 million. The Brewers countered with $5.6 million. So we'll see. $900,000 difference. Not quite the small difference with the Corbin Burns one that garnered a lot of attention over there. But they did avoid arbitration with Aaron Savali, who got $8 million. Nestor Cortez, $7.6. Pyops, $2.995. Trevor McGill, $1.94. Nick Mears, $963,000. And this is also on the heels of William Contreras on the MLB Network's top 10 position players, number 1 catcher in Major League Baseball. So, which also, I know it was a few days ago, Garrett Mitchell was number 8 on that list on center fielder. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did not see that.
That kind of caught me by surprise.
It's interesting.
Considering he played not even half the season last year. So, but, I'm sure some people are probably scarred from the Corbin Burns one, considering all that. Every team goes through this, though.
They do. I mean, you look at, like the Cubs are traded for Kyle Tucker, and they're, as of right now, still like $1.5 million apart. So what happens? Like, and again, they can still, you can come to an agreement anytime. The Brewers and Contreras can wake up today and say, hey, let's meet at the halfway point.
Yeah.
And then it's done. But yeah, it's just, there's going to obviously be some bad memories. And you can remember going back even further, was Corey Hart. I think there was one that kind of, think back when Jack Sorensic was doing some things, and I think it was still obviously under Doug Melvin, but I think where they kind of went the distance, and they hadn't really gone the distance that much at that point. So it's just, one of those things. It's just, you hope they figure it out before then, because it's just one of those things, like you never want to, I don't think you ever want to go to arbitration in that case.
Well, it sounds like it's such an awkward experience.
It is, because you have to state, you basically you go into this arbiter, and you have the two sides, and they, hey, this is how much money we think, this player should make, and this is why.
Yeah, it's almost like the team, they want him, but they're like, but he's not that good to where he deserves that amount.
You're trying to win your case, but at the same time, you kind of have to, poo-poo on that person to be like, well, he was great, but he wasn't that great.
Right.
You don't really want to have to get to that point where you do that. And I know you mentioned Corbin Burns. Obviously, that's where, there were some tough feelings there coming out of that, where they had to, they got to spend the day, having that conversation.
Right. And I think at that one too, because it was not that much of a difference either. So
at some point, you kind of,
when's it worth it to go that distance to
that
point? So, but yeah, I don't think anybody should be too worried about this.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. Nothing is going to change. Like Contreras is going to be on the team. The worst thing that happens there is they go and, I guess I don't know which end winning you consider to be worse, but either way, like it's just, it's just one of those kind of unique things you really only see in baseball.
You might have to tell your mom. She's like, oh my God, give 24 what he wants. I think she's worried now.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going anywhere, so there's nothing to worry about that.
So,
but
Jake from State Farm has a text for you.
I've
reflected on this year's fantasy season, and I want to personally congratulate Brandon on his win in the championship. Well, we weren't going to do a money bet on there, so
we never came because we talked about we never decided anything. So it's good.
We're not going to do money bets on there, so so that's why there was no response to that one. Over there. I'm on my way to Pepin with my dad. Spud Light time to go to war with the walleyes. So,
there you go. There you go.
So
it's a good start to the weekend.
It is. It absolutely is.
Hey, Jake, it was a heck of a year. That was I had to earn it because that was a very high scoring matchup.
Yeah.
I needed a lot of Jared Goff and
so I might
Jahmyr
as well
Gibbs.
Tell you right now that I think your reward for that, Brandon, is for the 2025 season. You are now the official Sports Talk fantasy expert.
Oh boy!
So everybody's going to ask you questions now.
Oh. You don't need to look at some of my other teams.
That's your reward, man. So everybody's going to come to you
for
questions, and when you get it wrong,
it's on me.
It's on.
Well, I get a lot of things wrong, so
it's
I guess that's nothing new.
Oh man! All right, so coming up here in a couple minutes, we'll talk some more NFL playoffs. We've got our picks coming up here. We nailed the Saturday ones.
We did. I mean,
we nailed it. It wasn't too hard, but
come on.
Just glad
I mean, that's easy money. Like, if we could have bet on that, like, you and I could have made some money off of the Chargers-Texans being in that first game.
Yeah. That.
And I think the Ravens-Steelers one was pretty easy, too, because they had both played Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to limit the amount of teams that maybe had that short rest.
Yep.
So that made sense.
Yep. Although I do think Texas Chargers could be sneaky good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that one kind of gets made fun of.
Yeah,
but I think that could be
we're kind of making fun of it, but at the same time, like, it's an interesting matchup.
It is, and I get a lot of people picking the Chargers in this one, but we'll see if our picks all match up.
I already heard your picks on the. I'm
not
gonna say what they are, but I heard them.
I know, because if people actually would listen to the
that's how I did my research.
Okay, yeah, getting the expert.
A little subterfuge.
Stop using big words. Well, half of us don't understand what that means, man. So just stop. But yeah, so unless you listened, you don't know. You don't know what they are. So, but no, I always love Wild Card Weekend. I always love Wild Card Weekend.
But I liked it better when it was just the 3 games in 3 games.
I hate Monday night.
Right.
I hate it. So I guess, maybe now I like divisional weekend better.
Yeah, because I like noon 3:37 both days. It was just you sit down for Saturday, you wake up, you sit down for Sunday. That was As much as
especially for you this year too, because your team's Monday night.
Right. So you gotta wait to the very end.
Right. So yeah, I hate the Monday night. I agree with you. I wish, but they're not going back.
No, they're not. There's money to be made.
Yep. And as long as there's like other broadcasting platforms, like the Steelers and one's going to be on Amazon,
on Prime, yeah,
they're going to try to find ways to get everybody a game.
Let's put it this way: if the NFL can find a way to make money off of something, it's going to.
Yep. Exactly. They already announced teams that are playing next year in London this morning.
Did they? I didn't see that.
Jets, Jaguars. Weird breaking news.
Well, Jaguars always play.
Yeah. So it's Jets, Jaguars, and who was the other one? I got an email. I should just look at my email.
Oh, I didn't see that. So yeah, you have to let me know.
It is. Am I going to get it before the shot? Browns. Jets, Browns, Jaguars playing the 2025 NFL London games.
Yeah, there you go, London.
There was a rumor. This was a couple weeks ago. Steelers, Packers in Ireland this year. That's going to be a drunk fest. 2 in, 1 more to go. We'll be back. Final hour on this Friday morning. A big thanks to all of you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. Don't forget to head on over to the video stream over there. Brandon's doing a weird wave to everybody. See if, okay, we'll test who's watching. If you saw Brandon wave, say aye. Aye. And there's two. We're going to make our picks coming up a little bit later on. We've also got head coaching predictions.
Yeah.
Should we do the Cowboy one or should we wait?
My Cowboy one is kind of, I just made a guess.
Okay.
Like that one was a little
It's
bit
so
tougher.
weird.
Because we don't know.
Yeah. So I've got a name, but I'm not going to make it like an official one.
Okay.
Maybe put like a little asterisk next to it saying, if McCarthy leaves, this is who. So we're going to do that coming up here in just a little bit. We'll talk about these games leading up to it, these playoff games and such. But first, let's cream of the crop. Ready to do a little cream of the crop here? Your pick for cream of the crop.
I'm gonna be very obvious with it. I'm gonna go Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Notre Dame football. I mean, going to be in the national championship game. I think the stat before this past week was they hadn't won a New Year's Day game in like 30 years, or something.
Man.
Or they hadn't won like a significant, or in like 30 years, and then they've won 2 of them in like a week and a half. Like the job Marcus Freeman has done with Notre Dame, especially after the loss to Northern Illinois. Since that game, you can make a case they've been the best team in the country.
Yeah.
They learned whatever lessons they need to learn from that game, and they have been fantastic. Going and beating Penn State, who's a good Penn State team.
Yeah.
To now be in a position to play for a national championship, like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because in amongst these Final Four teams, like I don't know if there's really anyone I'm necessarily rooting for, because they're all kind of dislikable teams in their own way.
So
as a college fan, I'm just enjoying and watching.
I'll ask you what I asked yesterday. Would you cheer for an all Big Ten one because it means more money to the conference, or does that not matter to you?
That doesn't really bother.
Yeah,
that doesn't matter to me. Like,
I can't go for Ohio State. I don't see the 20 million. So
right.
Doesn't bother me at all.
I'll admit I liked watching Ohio State beat up on Tennessee because of the whole SEC narrative, which has kind of been so far taking a big time beating.
I still see, like Texas though. I still don't think SEC.
And that's it. Like that's kind of the thing where it's like, like Oregon. If Oregon would have made the championship game with Big Ten, people are like, yeah, Big Ten. It's like I don't really view them as a Big Ten team. They're kind of a transitional team right now, and that's kind of the same way with Texas right now. I think with the SEC, like given the way the postseason has gone, I'm sure SEC teams will be like, yeah, that's our team. But they deep inside they know like, okay, but it's really it's not.
I agree. Hey, at least Oregon beat Ohio State in hoops last night to get a little.
I'm sure that helped calm the waters
a little bit. So, hey, Snoop Dogg's hosting the NFL Awards show. I just got that press release there. So
that's actually pretty crazy. Snoop Dogg's usually not out in public like that.
It's like, wait, okay, I got you. Well played. My cream of the crop. So I did Marcus Freeman last week, so I knew I could do Notre Dame again this week. Although that is a very, very solid pick. I am going to go with. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route here. I'm going to go with Brandon McManus because we actually have a kicker that can actually hit a 55-yarder. I just wish we would re-sign him and not have to go through a kicking situation again. For the years to come. I was struggling a little bit to come because I wanted to pick Notre Dame in that. So I'm like, okay, I can't give it to any other football team in this thing. Actually, I will say this, Bo Nix and Sean Payton. My kid loves Bo Nix now for some reason. Bo Nix just got the Nickelodeon valuable player on Slime Time. So he was all geeked up last night watching that. But credit to Sean Payton. As painful as it says, and I know you're not,
I'm not a Sean Payton fan, but he has done a really good job.
And last year with the draft, all the top McCarthy and Jaden and Caleb, and there was some people saying, "Are you reaching for Bo Nix?" Yeah. He got his guy.
He's an excellent facilitator of the offense, and that's not a knock. I mean, that's what you want out of a quarterback. He knows where to go. He knows where to go with the ball.
Yep. Yeah.
And he can make some plays like that's.
I agree. Should we do some NFL picks? NFL coach picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so because Brian and I like coming up with
We like
predictions.
picking things.
Yeah, we like doing this, or lists or rankings or anything like that. And we like to see how close we get. That's why this year too, by the way, Brandon, since we're going to be at draft, you need to come up with a first round mock.
I will.
A complete first round mock.
Yeah, I'll reveal it the Thursday morning.
Yep. We'll see if we can get maybe like a nice little graphic made for each of our boards.
And then you and I,
yeah,
as we're there, we will.
One thing I want to figure out, we're going to have to figure out maybe to get some tees or some swag to hand out when we take over Green Bay too.
Yeah.
We got to do that.
Yeah.
We got to go big in this thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is a once in a lifetime thing.
Yep.
Like to do it at this level.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree.
We got to go big in this. So
yep.
We got a couple months yet, but we'll figure it out. So, all right. So we'll leave maybe the Cowboys are kind of like our honorable mention one.
Yeah. Because obviously we don't know yet if that's going to be a job.
So we'll leave that for last, just so it doesn't tip away anything at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you have your order, but I've got. Should we go Bears first?
Yeah, my order was how I remembered them when I was at the Chihaya Boys hockey game last night, which it took me forever to remember the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo, which you called.
Yeah.
But I was like, wait, there's 6. I'm like, who am I forgetting? I'm going through my head like, the Patriots.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll start with the Bears. Obviously, this one affects us because it's in the division.
Right.
Here a little bit. Who are you predicting that the Bears will hire? They've got a long list of guys that they're interviewing.
They are exhausting every avenue from the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I'm going to go with the name that I feel like there's just been the most smoke with, and that's Ben Johnson.
Okay.
That's one that it seems like they're, even during the year, like after Eberflus is out, there's kind of some things popping out about, that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And he can be picky. And while I'm not sure if I was him, that's the pick I would make. And just because of, the circumstances of playing in the North and who you play and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there was just too much smoke there to not be some fire. I'm going to say Ben Johnson.
So I have a different pick in this one, but I do go with an offensive-minded coach. I'll just say this. I feel like Ben Johnson, you mentioned it, he's going to be picky, or he can be picky, although he's taken like every interview right now. It seems like he's doing it with the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Bears, Raiders, I think are in that mix too. So this one is probably going to be a little, He was a finalist when Green Bay hired Matt LaFleur, too. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a little bit up there in age, if you want to call him an older, because he's almost 60. But there's a couple factors why I went with Todd Monken. One, offensive-minded coach. You look what he's done with Lamar Jackson and obviously Derrick Henry.
Yeah, getting the best version of that offense with personnel.
Exactly. You look at you got to get, I think, an offensive-minded head coach in Chicago. Now, whether they're actually going to do that, I don't know. But I feel like I would. And I just feel like if Ben Johnson is going to be that picky, does he want to go where maybe there's a lame duck GM already?
That's a good point.
And does he want to bring his own guy, or does he want to pair up with somebody? That sort of thing. So if it's not Ben Johnson, I think the Bears are kind of looking and hoping for that. But if it's not, I think you look at a guy like Todd Monken, because the GM also has to. Ryan Poles is, I think, on the hot seat, and he's got to hit this. And you look at what Todd's done. He was in Georgia. He was with Tampa Bay. I think when Green Bay interviewed him, he was the offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay when they were kind of the aerial attack over there.
Bruce Arians.
Yes. Yep. So you bring him over. Maybe you bring some of that elements to that Ravens offense over to Chicago with Caleb Williams. So I went with Todd Monken with that pick. So
I like it.
I've got the Patriots next on my list.
Okay.
But which one do you want to do?
Yeah, we can do Patriots.
Okay.
I mean, the order doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I mean, I went with the obvious one with Patriots. I went Mike Vrabel.
I did too. So
I think as much as it would be interesting kind of going from like one quote unquote Patriots guy to another, like obviously it's very different where Vrabel has a little bit more of the track record.
Right.
And I think that after the way things went last year, I think that ownership group, Bob Kraft, is looking for stability.
Mm-hmm.
And someone that's won in the league.
Right.
So I'm gonna say Mike Vrabel.
I have Mike Vrabel too. I will just to maybe add on it, maybe a wild card, because I think it is intriguing. He is taking an interview as Ben Johnson. I think it's intriguing that he's willing to take that, because they, I don't think the Patriots want to go 2 straight first-round quarterbacks and not get something out of that quarterback. Mac Jones. Mac Jones isn't there anymore.
Right.
You got Drake May. He's shown some things.
Right.
Can you develop that?
Is Ben Johnson interest. And remember, that team still got a lot of money to spend.
Right.
And they need to build that offense. Like that offense has a lot of work to do.
Exactly. But I just think you mentioned it with the smoke. It's sure the timing wise, a fire, Gerard Mayo was fired right away. And you do your 2 interviews with Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton right away.
Right.
It just feels like it's Vrabel.
I think so.
So,
yep, I agree.
All right. So who do we got next here? Let's do the Jets then. Stay in the AFC East.
This one I went a little off the board for because it's the Jets.
Yeah.
And you never know. And it's off the board in that some people may say, huh? And I'll explain my other, because I had 2. This is one I went back and forth on a little bit.
Okay.
For the Jets, I went Josh McCown.
Ooh, okay. Former backup quarterback.
Vikings quarterback coach.
Yep.
I think that I could see Woody Johnson and maybe his kids, who knows, may if they may or not have any say in this.
They don't have rankings for coaches in Madden, so
yeah. So, but I could see them going with someone they know. Again, you said, remember, McCown was actually there.
Yep.
When Sam Darnold was there.
Yep.
I could see, and I think Rodgers is gone, but I think I don't think Garrett Wilson's gonna be like, I could see them like trying to like, okay, we've got some talent here. Let's try to reset. Let's get an offensive guy. Maybe this isn't hiring that's a year early. But I think if they see like, you know what? I mean, we've seen sometimes these coaches are maybe not, we don't think are quite ready to get hired.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with McCown. I can explain my other reasoning that I was thinking about going with, but you go first, just because I don't want to step on you potentially.
Oh no. So I went with Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator with the Lions, former Jets player who was drafted by the Jets in the first round. I know it's another defensive-minded coach, but I went with this. So I'll just say I had Aaron Glenn as a finalist with the Jets or the Saints. He spent time with both of those teams there. But I feel like given everything that has gone wrong, so first of all, Jets still have a solid defense talent-wise. I think they got players in place. Sauce Gardner, you look at some of those. So he's got that over there to work with, to build upon. That franchise needs such a strong vocal leader culture type of thing that I think Aaron Glenn can bring over to that. The Jets need that desperately. And I know it's kind of weird to try to figure out what Woody Johnson's thinking, but I mean, I think you also want to make a pick that fans would get behind. And he's a former Jet player that, spent a lot of time over there too. With the fans like that, I think they would like that. But you just need somebody that's going to be a leader and a culture builder. And I think that's going to be Aaron Glenn. So the fact that they've got pieces on that defensive side, I think helps. And then, you focus on trying, because they're going to have to get a quarterback. I don't know who it's going to be. Yeah. I don't know if you're going to be able to find one in the draft or not, but at least you got those pieces in play for your head coach.
Kind of going off of what you said, my other guy I went back and forth on with this was Brian Flores.
Yep.
Because for many of the reasons you mentioned, he's a New York guy.
Yep.
And plus, if he went over there, my thinking was too, like he might pluck a Josh McCown to be his offensive coordinator because that would be a step up,
right?
Quarterback coach.
Yep.
So that was kind of the rationale you used for Aaron Glenn, I think, is sound. And again, I was very close to kind of going with Brian Flores for a very similar reason.
I did think about Brian Flores over there too. That was. I'll just tell you, Brian Flores was the hardest one for me to predict whether he was going to get one or not this year. But more on that.
Yep.
So let's do Saints.
Okay. Saints, I have Aaron Glenn.
Okay.
For a lot of the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the connections there. I think let's put it this way. I was a little unsure, but I think Aaron Glenn got himself a head coaching job based on what he did Sunday night.
Yeah.
That approach that they had against the Vikings offense was fantastic. And those players executed. And I think that kind of puts it over the top for me.
With all the injuries that they've had to deal with on that defensive side over there too. So
yeah, I think he lands a job in this cycle. And I'm going to say at the Saints for a lot of the same reasons you said with the Jets. He has a connection there. Yep. They can use, the Saints are just so stale right now. They need that. And I'm going to say Aaron Glenn.
So for my Saints pick, I also went with a former Saints assistant coach from back in the day, Joe Brady, current offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Moving on from Dennis Allen, who was a defensive-minded coach who coming in with the offensive side. I don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. Is it going to be Carr? If it's Carr, do you bring in an offensive coordinator that did some great stuff with Josh Allen this year in Buffalo to try to get that out of him? Assuming Alvin Kamara is still going to be there next year, who knows? You got Chris Olave as a wide receiver in that. So Brady, bringing him over, offensive-minded, kind of getting back. I mean, he was there when Sean Payton was there, I believe, 2007, 2018, ish over there. So maybe bringing a little bit of that back over there. So I went with an offensive minded head coach because, for one, I don't think the Saints are a great situation because they're in salary cap hell.
Yes.
So I feel like you almost need to get some creativity with maybe your head coach and play caller at that point. So that's why I think they bring back Joe Brady at that spot.
Plus, didn't he coach at LSU?
Yeah.
So there's
he's got a lot of Louisiana connections.
Yeah, I think he was the offense coordinator when they won the title with Burrow and Jefferson and Chase.
And then that's when he got hired at Carolina.
Right. So
but then Carolina was just awful.
Yeah. So yep.
All right, let's do Raiders.
I am actually going to go with somebody that has an interview, but he's interviewing next year. I'm going Pete Carroll.
Okay.
I think that the Raiders are going to go for an established winner, a guy. They want to pull the nose up a little bit, and I think, especially coming off of Antonio Pierce, who was a younger, inexperienced guy. I think they go the complete opposite direction, and Pete Carroll gets his. I guess this will be his third act. Because he did coach Patriots and then
Patriots, Jets.
Oh, I guess I kind of lump those together.
Okay.
So, but he had obviously he's been off, but I'm going to say Pete Carroll gets back in the game and he's coaching the Raiders.
So I don't know if I'd call it a conspiracy theory. This one was the toughest for me because the biggest question is how much is Tom Brady involved in this? That if Tom Brady has a huge say in this, like a lot of people assume he's going to have a huge say in this, I think it's also telling. I think it's telling that a couple days later they fired their general manager.
Right.
So that to me tells me Tom Brady's involved in this. That they're starting over from scratch, and Brady's going to have a bigger voice in this. So then the mindset is like, oh, Vrabel, would he bring in a Patriots guy? But you look. Just a few years ago, they had two Patriots guys in the front office, Dave Ziegler and then Josh McDaniels. And then the other part of it is like, I don't think Brady wants Patriots people. I think he wants to I want to do it my way. I want to show I've got this. We know how competitive he is. He's trying to do his broadcast thing. Now he's getting into ownership. I think he wants to set his own mark. Yeah, I'm sure he called Bill, like the reports were out there. But I think at this point, he wants to okay, I want to put my own mark on this. And so who is that guy? I'm like, okay, could it be Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator from Tampa Bay? I'm sure he's still got connections in Tampa Bay, to kind of get a little background check on him. Then I'm like, okay, but he called games every weekend. And a team that he saw a lot, I think he could pull this off. When the GM firing kind of tips me off here a little bit. I think they get Ben Johnson.
Ooh.
I'm going to bet they don't have the quarterback. I understand it, but they got an offensive line that they can build around with that. You don't have that GM, so you can kind of work with maybe pairing up Ben Johnson with that. But Tom Brady called a lot of Detroit games this year, right? He called a lot of Detroit games. He's got to be very familiar with what he saw. And part of me is wondering, okay, I want me some of that for my team. Again, the quarterback position, it's kind of an unknown there. But the timing of the GM thing was just kind of weird. Sort of thing. And I'm like, okay. And then the fact because I guarantee you Brady's going to go back to all these games and these, not just calling them, the meetings, right? They meet with the coaches. He's got to use that as some sort of pre-interview interview sort of thing. So I went back and forth between Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, but I feel like they're going to make a big push for Ben Johnson, and he's going to be able to pair him up with a general manager that they all work together with. So it's a wild card.
Interesting.
But those are the reasons why I went with
Ben
Ben Johnson.
I like that rationale, though.
Yeah. So, all right. Last one, Jaguars.
Someone you just said it, Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
I think he's an offensive-minded guy off that Sean McVay tree. I think, coming off of Doug Peterson, obviously the plan was to try to get a quarterback-friendly guy for Trevor Lawrence coming off the debacle of Urban Meyer. That didn't really work because it didn't seem like Doug Peterson really evolved. He was still kind of stuck in, this is what we did with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. I'm going to go with, I think Liam Cohen makes the short jaunt to Jacksonville, offensive-minded guy. And honestly, I think that's a spot where whoever they land, you can come in. If you hit that right, you can be in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
That division is not good. And I think Trevor Lawrence, he may not be the generational guy that he was kind of viewed at. I still think he could be a very good quarterback. You drafted Brian Thomas. I think Evan Ingram's a good tight end. I think you can make
ETN's over there too.
Yeah, I think you can make a big turnaround with the Jaguars in 1 year. And I think Liam Cohen is the person they tasked to try to do it.
So I had somebody else here, but the fact they're keeping Trent Baalke changes everything for me. If they got rid of Trent Baalke, I think Ben Johnson goes there.
Yeah, that's a good call.
That would be
I didn't understand keeping Trent Baalke.
I don't either.
His resume, especially his resume in more recent years, is not good.
Right. And I think that limits them in terms of who they can keep.
I think there's been reports too that even some candidates, just nameless, candidates said like that impacts it.
Right. And I know Ben Johnson's still interviewing there, but there were some people, I think it was Albert Breer, that even said that because Shad made a weird comment like, well, if I could be convinced, I'd fire Trent Baalke or something like that. And they made it like, well, if Ben Johnson goes in there and makes a case, then maybe Trent Baalke goes out there. But then he's a first-time head coach, so how much are you going to give him power there? So with that, I got Brian Flores going there with Jacksonville. Part of it is because Brian Flores said he's taken every interview. He wants to be back as a head coach. And the thing that I think hurts him a little bit is the Ryan Fitzpatrick comments that kind of came out, although he did try to clarify them afterwards a little bit. But I think it's going to be a situation kind of similar maybe to Doug Peterson in a sense. Your pool of candidates might be limited because of the lack of people that want to work with Trent Baalke.
True.
And you got to go in there, and I think with Brian Flores, that division is still up for grabs, I think.
Yep.
I think it's still up for grabs, and I just think given everything else out there, I agree. They should get an offensive-minded head coach, do something with Trevor Lawrence in that offense, but Baalke is the one that I think is holding that back, so that's why I'm going Brian Flores.
Well, even kind of going off of my rationale for what I had said with maybe Flores of the Jets, does Flores go down there and then maybe take a Josh McCown with him?
Yeah.
And say, hey, work with Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point.
So he someone he trusts and knows, hey, I'll take care of the defense. You can do the offense.
Yep, that's a good point. All right, kind of our honorable mention one. If the Cowboys do make a change, which time tells us he's got to the 14th and contract expires. If it's not McCarthy, how about this? Who do you throw me a name? I got one.
I've got one too, and this is a name that I initially was thinking about with the Raiders, but then the more of the Tom Brady stuff, I kind of thought, well, maybe not. I went Cliff Kingsbury.
Okay.
Because I don't know,
back to Texas.
That just seems like a type of move that Jerry would make.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really good year, kind of rehabbing his image a little bit with the Commanders. They're in the playoffs. I still think you go offensive minded there to try to maximize your talent with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That's one I just thought, and plus maybe the last year the idea was like, oh well, Dan, you lost Dan Quinn. He went to Washington. Well, we're gonna take him, but kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And this was one I didn't even feel super strong about.
Yeah.
But Cliff Kingsbury was just one I was like, I could see that.
I love the rumors that are going on there about Steve Sarkisian. Because it's like fitting, if Texas loses, then he's available and all that. So and he does have a little NFL experience, offensive coordinator with Atlanta just a few years ago. I think he brings back his boy Kellen Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Offensive coordinator at Philly, and Mike McCarthy moved on from him after a couple of years. I think he brings if he makes a move, does he bring back his I think a lot of people thought his next Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore as head coach. So that would be the name I throw out there. So
interesting. There we go.
Yep. Those are our picks, and be happy if we get maybe two right.
All right.
On this one. Speaking of which, let's take a quick break and talk some more football, talk some NFL playoffs coming up after these quick words. NFL playoffs officially kick off tomorrow here. Before we get to our picks and predicts on these games, let's kind of go through each of these games. We'll end with Packers game and the Vikings game towards the end there. But first up, Chargers, Texans. I think this is a sneaky good game. You got Justin Herbert, you got CJ Stroud and such over there. So it's at Texas. It's at Houston. Chargers are favored in this one. How do you view this game? Don't make the pick, but like, what do you think's maybe? How do I want to phrase this? Like, I don't know why, but I feel like this is a sneaky game. Chargers defense is really good, and I know Houston has gone through some injuries and such here, but I don't know. Like, I know a lot of people are hitting that Chargers line. I don't know if I'm like, oh, that's a for sure Chargers win there.
Well, the interesting thing is we went through our coaching candidates, and who's someone we didn't talk about that this time a year ago?
Bobby Slowick.
Yeah. Everyone was all about.
Yep. You're right.
He's taken, that the public perception on him is taking a step back this year, as the Texans offense has had some struggles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. So Harbaugh, I mean, I think he did what we all thought. He was going to completely turn around a franchise and get them back to being a postseason. Remember, they had to make a lot of roster moves in the offseason to clear cap space.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, Keenan Allen got traded, Mike Williams got traded, and, had to do a lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's funny you don't hear his name mentioned as coach of the year.
No, at this point, it almost seems like people just expected it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of sucks on his behalf because it's still a good job to do because they had like a top 6 pick or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they drafted Joe Alt.
Yeah.
An offensive lineman.
Because for a while that was kind of looked at maybe like a trade up spot for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just, I think at this point people are just kind of like, oh yeah, that's just Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does.
Yep. The Sunday game here. So let me ask you this: who's this win more important for between Steelers and Ravens? Mike Tomlin or Lamar Jackson?
I'm going to say Mike Tomlin because to me, like, Lamar is going to have to go really deep.
Mm-hmm.
If he loses, it's just kind of another one. But Mike Tomlin, like, it's been struggles at the start of the playoffs for several years now.
Mm-hmm.
And they enter the postseason not on a good trajectory.
Well
and I'm not going to say he's not going to get fired, but like.
So if like you're the Bears, I know some people have said this. If they lose, do you call Pittsburgh and see
about Mike Tomlin?
Yeah.
Can't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might get as far as, the reported interest teams head and Kevin O'Connell where, hey, you can always make the phone call.
Right.
But you're probably going to get hung up on.
But like at what point though, I think if you're the Steelers, do you look at this and be like, okay, are we at, like I use this example, like maybe for like certain athletes in high school or something, you get a coach, but then you reach that level. Well, that coach can only take you and you got to go to the next one.
Yeah.
Are the Steelers at that point where Tomlin can get you to that level now?
Who gets you to the playoffs?
Right. But do you need somebody else, a different voice to come in and take you that next
for a
notch?
lot of franchises? I would say maybe, but for Pittsburgh, that's tougher because they've been so loyal to their coaches over the years.
Right.
I mean, they've had 3 coaches since like the 70s.
Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin.
Right. That's kind of an organizational thing with the Rooney family.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if it was another team, I would say maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Steelers, I don't think that would happen.
Yeah. You know what's going to be weird though is so a lot of the talk is here too, and it'll depend on how this game goes on Saturday. But if there was, let's say Pittsburgh gets blown out or something like that, right? Quarterbacks, a lot of people are saying, "Hey, Aaron, go to Pittsburgh for 1 year and team up with Tomlin." Green Bay visits Pittsburgh next year. Just throwing that out there at the window.
Is Pittsburgh going to take another spin on the wheel of veteran quarterbacks?
Right. I think a lot's going to depend on how Russell probably plays in this game too.
Yeah.
So it didn't help last week. I will say this for Russell. It didn't help last week when George Pickens can't catch a cold.
Right.
And then he trash talks the fans. I mean, come on, dude. Just stop.
He is on his way to being the next quote unquote great Steelers receiver. By that, I mean someone that just goes nuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so Denver at Buffalo. Denver got in with a dominating win. Bo Nix was 26-29 against the B team of the Chiefs. Your reward, go to Buffalo and play the Bills in the postseason. To me, if I had to pick a guarantee win, I'm picking this one as Buffalo. And I just kind of
there's a way Denver could win, but like I just it doesn't seem like they have very many paths.
Mm-hmm. And Denver is definitely trending upward, though.
Yeah.
Definitely trending upward. They
can build off this.
They got out of that Russell Wilson contract that they will be after, this year and such. The defense, Vance Joseph has done a good job over there too. You got Patrick Surtain over there. So yeah, it's definitely trending upward. It kind of, I don't know if they'll get to this level, but it almost kind of gives me the Eagles vibes, Nick Sirianni's first year, where they just got in the playoffs and they got dominated by Tampa Bay in that first round against Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of, that's when it all gelled for New England or for Philadelphia.
Yeah,
so,
it could be.
We'll skip Green Bay one and then go to the night game, Tampa Bay and Washington. So Tampa Bay gets in. They actually get the 3 seed because of the Rams losing. Commanders almost losing to Dallas, but they pulled Jane Daniels and Marcus Mariota led them to victory over there. For a lot of people, they think this is the best game of the weekend. Are you buying that?
I could see it. I think the last 2 games might be the most competitive of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see it with this one because I think both these teams have potential explosive offenses.
Mm-hmm.
A little inconsistent, but still, would you be surprised if this was like a 34-31 game?
No.
This is one of those games I could just see being really fun if both teams are clicking because both teams had that capability. The offense Baker Mayfield's had a great year.
Right.
There's been a couple clunkers in there, but he's had a really good year. Jane Daniels, offensive rookie of the year.
He's got to be.
Got to be.
I know Bo Nix made a late push, but I look at the whole season. It's Jaden,
So no, I agree that this could be just a really fun one.
Yeah, I think this could be a big. Jane Daniels. We'll see if he can get off his playoff career to a fast start with a win right away.
Got an opportunity.
He does. So let's and then, we're gonna go to your game then. Minnesota Rams in Arizona because of the fires in Los Angeles. That was announced last night. How, compared to last Friday when you said you didn't want to face the Rams, to where you're at now, are you as nervous, concerned? Has it adjusted a little bit? What's your
I don't know if it's nervous, but I just recognize that the Rams are a talented team.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a veteran quarterback who's done it before. They have a head coach that's one of the best in the league that's done it before.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp's kind of struggled down the stretch, but Puka Nacua is, Kyron Williams is, I think, an underrated running back. And I think defensively, they've got a good front. They've got some of the traits that teams that go on runs have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, there's concern there. But like I said before, once you get to the postseason, you're gonna have to beat good teams anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's not it's something I just recognize this is the challenge, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna get all bent out of shape because they're playing this team instead of Washington or whoever or Tampa Bay,
right,
or whoever it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So but in this one, you just, to me, it so much of it is just I want to see how the Vikings respond to what happened last Sunday night. They had the opportunity in front of them, and that's a game that early in the second half, it's a close game.
Yeah. Nope.
And it just kind of got away. I think I mentioned to me just the red zone offense. You can't go for 4 in the red zone, especially in the low red zone. There's some things, and I just feel like if they were in that spot again, I don't think that would happen. Just a law of averages. I want to see this Vikings team come out a little more and be able to finish drives because I think that goes a long way.
Obviously with the Rams, when you talk about the Rams, a lot of people talk about obviously the passing offense with Cooper and Puka, and I heard Brian Flores say earlier that when they lost to him earlier in the season, they weren't expecting Puka to play, and I think that was a short week game too. I think it was a Thursday night game, if memory serves me. So they necessarily weren't ready for Puka because it was a quick turnaround, and he ended up playing. So they'll be ready for it. But I will say this about the Rams. The one thing that, so we draw a lot of attention. We talk a lot of attention about their passing offense. They got a couple of, one of them might win Defensive Rookie of the Year with Verse over there. And then you got Brandon Fisk over there too. So, they've got some talent on defense, young talent on defense. So don't ignore that part, because I get it. You think about the Rams, you think about McVay, you think about the passing offense, but they got a couple nice pieces on the defensive side over there too that could make it a little bit interesting there. But I honestly feel like this is going to be a good game too.
Yeah.
I like a lot of these matchups in this wild card round. And then it leads into the Green Bay and Philly one, which I love it that 2 weeks ago, what was the national talk about Green Bay? That's the team you don't want to play in the playoffs. And then this week, I saw a poll question: is Green Bay the team you want to play in the postseason? How the
turntables have turned.
Exactly. So we get it. You look at the last 2 weeks; it hasn't been good. It was a stupid game against Chicago. I have no idea. I felt like it was like they didn't know if they should try to play for the win or not. They have, you know what? It felt like, in terms of
they were like, and I heard you and Justice talking about this on Monday, and the phrase I use for this is they were half pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know if they were or they weren't.
Yeah,
they were just kind of like, well, we're going to play, but then we're not, and then it just kind of felt like they were stuck in the middle,
right? And
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. So, obviously, you look at a lot. You got Saquon going up against the 7th-ranked run defense, which still surprises me to say 7th-ranked run defense in Green Bay. But, you got that. You got the number 1 pass defense with Philly going up against a passing offense that struggled here the last couple weeks. I think, you could say it's for every quarterback, but Jordan Love hasn't been playing that great accuracy-wise. He's got to have a game, I think. I think he's the dude that has to have a game. And I think honestly, Philadelphia, if you look at their season, they've kind of first quarter sluggish starts.
They've been very sluggish to start.
Yeah. I think if Green Bay puts up 14 like they did against Dallas last year, okay, we got something there.
This is not a game where Green Bay can fall behind by 2 scores and win.
Right.
I agree with you. They need to come out. I think that Dallas game is a very good blueprint of what needs to happen. You need to score early. You need to be able to run the ball. Remember, Aaron Jones ran wild.
Yep.
And you got to be able to, I think, get a turnover.
Yep.
You need to come out of that. That team needs to be able to come out of that first quarter saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, we can do this.
Yeah. You go back to week 1 when they played Philly, first quarter, and I remember watching this game and saying this is going to come back to bite us. 2 turnovers by Philadelphia in the first quarter, and Green Bay had 6 points off those turnovers. And it was deep in their own territory.
You can't kick field goal. You can't get turnovers and kick field goals. Like, you're not going to win the game. This is a game you're not going to win kicking field goals.
Yep.
I felt that way about the Minnesota-Detroit game. I feel that way about the Rams game. Like, you're not going to win the game kicking field goals.
Yep. Because it was after their last turnover. I think it was a fumble, or it might have been the Jalen Hurts interception, whatever one. And they kicked another field goal and 6-0. I'm like, so what happens on the next drive? Eagles score a touchdown, take the lead. So Green Bay was up 2-0 in turnovers, 6 points, and they're losing. You can't do that in this one. And if somehow you can keep Philly out of the red zone, that's where I think Saquon is a bigger threat, is when he's in the red zone. And so if you can keep them outside the 20 and try to force them to field goals, then we got something. So, but can they? Well, we'll find out with our picks coming up here. Picks and predicts. We got college football tonight. We'll pick that. NFL playoffs. We got a Badger basketball and Gopher basketball game tonight. Badgers taking on the Gophers tonight, too. So, Bucks are also in action against Orlando. Lots of picks coming up. It is time for some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room, located in Eau Claire, right next to the Banbury Place. Looking for someone to catch some of these games this weekend? You can head on over there and watch them while enjoying some beverages. Let's start. Badgers, Gophers, basketball. Who you got at the Kohl Center tonight?
Badgers.
Yeah, Badgers too.
You know what? I really impressed with what they did to Iowa. Then coming back and going on the road to beat Rutgers, who's not Rutgers solid team. Like it's just so weird to me still that this Badgers team is a team that's just going to score like 90 points all the time.
Yeah.
And they're going to give up probably like 80, but like it's just a very different thing than I think as Badger fans we're used to. But you know, they bounced back well after the first couple early conference losses.
Yep.
This is one you got to go get to keep piling up.
And right now, those losses don't look as bad, right?
No, they don't.
Michigan.
No, they're solid teams, but you know, as you hit the new year, because they got a West Coast trip coming up, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you just never know when you're going a couple time zones. Obviously, you know, UCLA, USC, you don't want to fumble that. So, no, just take care of business tonight against your rival and move forward.
Yeah, Badgers here. Bucks Magic tonight.
We'll go Bucks. Coming off an impressive effort against Mr. Wembanyama.
So the way you just said effort, it's like, can we get that like consistently? You know,
nice.
that's the thing, you know. So
nice.
I'll go Bucks too.
Yeah.
So tonight's game, Texas, Ohio State.
I'll go Ohio State.
I'm gonna go Texas. Oh,
is that for Dr. Crow?
Not really. It's more so I don't want Ohio State, so I'll go with Texas. I wanted Texas last year. We need Matthew McConaughey at the national championship.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Do
all
we?
right. Come on now. You're not a McConaughey guy? Wild Turkey.
It's not that I'm not a McConaughey guy. It's just I don't need to see him everywhere.
Come on, he's cool.
Minister of Culture.
Yes. Oh God, isn't that the coolest job title in the world? Seriously, is that not the coolest thing? I'm going Texas. Let's get her done. NFL playoffs. We'll start off with the first game. Texans, Chargers.
I am going to go with the Chargers. If the Texans were playing a little better, I might be to go that direction, but I think I'm going to go Chargers in this one.
I want Texans. I'm going to go with the minority, but I will say I'm not confident in this at all.
Oh yeah, this is one of the more coin flip games I think of the weekend.
Yeah,
but like you said, it could be a really good one.
It's just I don't know why I'm going straight up gut with these picks instead of trying to overthink it. I know I'm probably going to be wrong in this, but it's just I don't know. I think I'm going to go Texans with this one. And I know they're the underdogs in this, but we'll see. So Ravens Steelers.
Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens. Is that the game that's the game where it's got the biggest margin, 9.5.
But here's the thing too. Like it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. And the Steelers have kind of been able to handle the Ravens at times over the years. So like this is one I think is a little closer than that. Like I think I'd pick Pittsburgh to cover maybe, or if Baltimore covers, it's late. But the Steelers just haven't done much leading into the postseason to lead me to believe that they can do it.
Would you agree that you're more concerned about the Steelers' offense and their defense heading into this
game?
Yeah, I would agree. Bills, Broncos.
Bills.
Getting all the AFC games done.
Yeah, all three right away, but I'm going to go Bills.
Yeah, Bills. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. We get John Elway and Jim Kelly at the captain's coin toss meeting over there. So we'll do the Commanders and Buccaneers then.
I'm going to take Washington.
Okay.
A little bit of the upset here, but I'm going to go Washington. Like Tampa Bay's home. I talked up Tampa Bay's offense, and I could see them making a run. I mean, they did last year. They won the game and played Detroit very well in the divisional round. But I don't know. I just get a feeling on Washington.
It's kind of rare in an instance when it happens once in a while, but two defensive-minded head coaches.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn, Todd
with good
Bowles.
offenses.
Yeah. So which defensive coordinator could come up with a better plan to slow down that opposing offense? Yeah. I'm going to go Tampa. I'm going to go Tampa with this one. I think they just squeak it out, but I think this is a very sneaky good game too. Maybe not sneaky, but I think it's a really good game. Rams, Vikings favored by 2.5.
And that line has moved a little bit since the game got moved to Arizona. As I've said, I'm really concerned about this. I will take Minnesota though. I think it's a close game. I think it's a 4-point game. I'll take Minnesota 27-23.
All right. And then I've got Minnesota too. I'm one of those that I think that loss against Detroit might have actually, if it was a close game and they still lost, I'd probably pick the Rams, and I'm overthinking it, but I'm going to go with the Vikings. I'm not going to overthink it. So, and then Green Bay and Philly. I already know where you're going with this one. So,
do you?
Yeah, I do. Oh, bull! What? Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Green Bay.
Why?
I got a feeling.
Okay.
And here's what I'll say first of all.
That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Everyone's saying Jalen Hurts can be cleared, but he hasn't been yet.
He was a full participant yesterday.
He was a full participant, but he hasn't been cleared yet. And remember, those are two very different things.
That's true.
And I think ultimately he probably will be, but I have a feeling on this one. And you had mentioned literally 2 weeks ago, the Packers were like the trendy Super Bowl team.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at the Vikings game and how the first whatever went. That ended up being a close game. The Chicago game, again, I don't know what the heck that was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a feeling. I'm going to say that Josh Jacobs just runs wild. And the Packers do enough. Jordan Love makes a couple plays with his legs. I'm going to take Green Bay.
So I know this kind of happens to me a lot as the week transpires, where my emotions start to get the better of me. And that because at the beginning of the week, I was like, yeah, it's all Philly. It's all Philly. I will say I do feel better about this game. Now, I am still a little bit concerned about the elbow with Jordan Love. I know, we talked to Dr. Cronat, but yeah, I think for me, the big test is going to be how far can he throw it? How hard can he throw it? That not necessarily how far, but how hard can he throw it? And is that going to be an issue? Is that because he's already been dealing a little bit with some accuracy issues, but is that going to make it a little bit more difficult? I feel like Saquon's going to get his yards, but as long as you don't allow him to go for 180 or 200 or something like that, the biggest thing to me is going to be, can they control that clock? Don't turn the ball over. Don't shoot yourself in the foot like you've done a few times this year, right? I think Green Bay can win this. I wouldn't be surprised either way how this outcome goes. I really wouldn't. I think if you asked Philadelphia, some of the players and coach stands off the record, hey, as a 2 seed, you get to play Green Bay. How do you feel? They're probably like, really? We got to play, it's kind of like the Oregon and Ohio State, maybe a little bit to that point. I'm still going to go Philly, but I have gotten closer to switching it. I will say that. I have gotten closer.
Thing I will say also in my defense, last year I did pick Green Bay to beat Dallas.
You did? You did?
I mean, I wasn't alone in that one, but still.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it's not like I'm not going to root for them or go for them and all that. I am 100%. It's just if I'm making a pick with my gut, I'm going to go Philly.
With your tummy tum?
With my tummy tum. But golly, you know what? And maybe all this talk is actually going to be good for Green Bay too. Like nobody's blah, blah, blah. Nobody's giving us a chance, As dumb as we think that is, it's obvious teams still use it, it still motivates them for crying out loud. So I just think the biggest key player in this game is Jordan Love. And I know, you can say that for every quarterback, but if he's on like he was in that Dallas game, yes, Aaron Jones running was great. But I mean, some of the passing plays and Roma, if remember the throw everybody was talking about, I think it was the Dondavian Wicks in that touchdown against the Cowboys. Like, oh my God, that throw, that dime that was just on. If he's on like that, they're going to win. Number 10 to me is the key to this thing. His demeanor, can he lead this team to victory in a hostile environment? That to me is going to be the ultimate indicator in this thing. And I don't know how Matt LaFleur is going to, I think it's going to be an interesting chess match. Matt LaFleur, Vic Fangio, Jeff Hafley, Kellen Moore. That to me is going to be interesting. So I hope you're right though, and I hope I'm wrong. We had 3 different picks in this.
We did.
One.
Usually, we've had weeks where during the regular season where we didn't have 3 different picks.
No. All right, I like it. So, yeah, I hope I'm wrong, and I'm not like maybe I'm setting myself up, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I would not be surprised either way. So, all right, we only got about a minute left. Not even a minute left. Only 30 seconds left. So, again, so you got Ohio State then versus Notre Dame in the national championship.
Yep.
I'll have Texas and Notre Dame in there.
Like I said, any combination of that Final Four, I'll watch because I'm a college football fan, but I'm not gonna be super pumped about it.
Yeah. You know what? I will say, if it is Texas Notre Dame, at least it's different.
It is.
We haven't really had that in a while. So
yeah.
But good for Notre Dame, I guess. Right? It's been a while. When was 2012 their last
when they lost
Alabama?
Yeah.
The Manti Te'o was on that team and such.
It just disappeared.
Nice. Well said. DP Danuts are up next. Have a good weekend. Hopefully we'll have a little victory Monday coming at you. Enjoy the games. See you then.